first.
Oh, really?
GABF?
Okay.
As this brewery, I've been before with the previous brewery several times. Yeah, that early Saturday session is generally the chillest, but there is.
It's awesome. You
after
guys staying through the weekend? You leaving tomorrow?
Leaving tomorrow morning. Try the metal beers. And,
Out of DIA?
Celebrating brewers at a ridiculous hour.
That's cool.
That can get a little bit rowdy when that happens.
I'm sorry, man.
I don't know if it was wise or not, but.
I think we're hot.
Having trouble tasting.
You got notes first? Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah.
As this brewery, I've been before with the previous brewery several times. Yeah.
Yep. Good to go. Make sure there's actually some numbers here. The volume is turned down. That feedback is gone, right?
Yes. Oh, wow.
Shit, what number are you, 2?
I am 2. You can turn me down a little, but you can turn my cans down a little too.
Oh yeah, that was
yeah,
on playback.
way better.
All right. Now we got the locals started.
I don't know. What's better?
It's you'll see. It's definitely better to be in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll like it a lot better. You can hear your levels. Yeah.
It's comfy. Actually, since we're getting started a little early, we can recheck the levels.
Okay.
Just to make sure everyone's coming through loud and clear. Do you hear the level that I'm at right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll notice when you start to get a little further away from the mic that you'll start to drift off a little bit in terms of the audio. So depending on what your comfort level is, I can adjust the levels, and you'll just have to let me know if you prefer to sit way back. We're probably going to pick up less of you.
Okay.
But
I feel like I'm good where I'm at right now.
Okay.
This is cool. I can
Yeah,
hear
actually,
myself.
you
can
do
adjust.
sound good.
I can hear myself. All right.
Yeah, you sound great.
It's it's pretty directional.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Try to face towards it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess we need an introduction.
Yeah, it'd probably be a good way to start today.
This is Tap In Geek Out with your hosts Doug Lunn and Eric G. Hollis. Man, when we changed the branding for our podcast a couple years to be really beer-centric, we knew we were going to have a lot of fun, but I didn't realize at the time where that path was going to lead us. And I would call today actually the culmination, or maybe not the final destination of that path, but it's definitely where I wanted to get to in terms of the kinds of people that we were talking to and the kinds of information we were bringing to our audience. We've introduced you guys to a lot of really cool beer, a lot of great tasting beer, and a lot of fantastic people along the way. And all of those are members of the Colorado craft scene. Today, we have the huge pleasure of being able to introduce 7 different breweries from out of state live from the 2018 Great American Beer Festival in Denver, Colorado. This is something Eric and I have been amped for quite some time. Last night, we hit the tasting floor and stopped and met with a couple of the brewers that we're going to be talking to. We tried their beer. We had a great time, although I do have to acknowledge the very first thing I want to point out is that they made it really difficult to find where we were going this year. They flipped the whole layout, the format, like the map's different. They used to divide things up by regions, and it was a little confusing. But you know what? If you've got a beer in your hand, it's really easy to power through it and forgive those kinds of things because ultimately, again, we had a great time. I was just trying to look for the attendance numbers for 2018 because it seems like there are way more people here now than there even were like 2 years ago. And Eric, I'm finally going to shut up and let you get your voice on this stream.
Yeah, it was a little bit more confusing this year only because normally when things are done by region, we dodge Colorado like the plague because we live here. We can have all of the Colorado beer we want anytime that we want. We really wanted to talk to brewers about beer that we can't necessarily get here in Colorado, and I think that's important. And I'm just going to jump right in today. I went to college in Athens, Georgia, and from what I've heard, the closest thing to Athens, Georgia is Austin, Texas, where our first brewery is from. Actually, Austin being much bigger than Athens is, but I've heard that they have a very similar vibe. But we've got Gino and Nate from Family Business Brewing Company or Beer Company here to talk to us. You guys were actually the first beer table I think we went to yesterday. We tried all of your beers. And let me just tell you before we start, Hall & Oates, who came up with the name? Because that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think that was actually Nate.
Did I do that? Yeah. I might have done that. Yeah.
You fan of the music, or did it just happen to fit with the beer?
It was just a funny name, I guess. It's an oatmeal brown ale, and so it was just a funny name that seemed to fit. Yeah. It sounds a little brown, too, doesn't it? Hall & Oates, it's got a brown sort of a vibe to it.
I'd say so. When you think oats, you can kind of associate that with a brown color. The beer was absolutely delicious, too.
Great, thank you.
One of the, I don't know, I probably tried about 100 beers yesterday, and that definitely was up at the top of my list. And I'm glad that you guys decided to kind of be our guinea pigs. First brewery from out of state we've ever sat down with here on the podcast. So you're
cool.
you're popping our cherry as much as we're doing yours.
Cool.
So
Yeah, this is fun. Thanks for having us and doing this with us.
tell us a little bit about y'all's history as family business beer company.
So I guess the idea probably started about 10 years ago or something along that line. Myself and my brother-in-law, Jensen Ackles, we were doing a bunch of home brewing in Southern California. We're actually making some pretty decent beer, kind of became students of the craft. We're sharing our beer with family and friends, and I can say that now that it's been like 10 years. We put it on at a homebrew on a draft system at a bar I worked at in Malibu, and people kind of went wild for it. And so we thought, hey, there might be something to this. Let's kind of put a pen to paper and see if we can scratch together a business plan that makes sense financially as well, and then kind of start looking for a place that would kind of fit the business model that we were looking to do. And we explored in Southern California for a little while. Ventura County seemed to kind of be interesting for a little while, but my side of the family is originally from Louisiana. Mother's side, dad's side's from Dallas. Jensen's from Richardson, just outside of Dallas. And so it made sense for us to be in kind of bring the brewery back home, so to speak. And, looking at Texas as a whole, it only seemed like Austin was the only place that really fit our vibe and our brand. And, we did spend some childhood years not far from the brewery, actually. My uncle has about 400 acres out there, and so we were camping and fishing and that kind of stuff out there. And,
nice.
I mean, it's just kismet. Everything worked out, and we're now next-door neighbors with that same piece of property.
In terms of like who is coming up with the ideas for the beers, the recipes, it sounds like Nate, we know you're a brewer, and it sounds like there's probably some other people that are in the business as well that are actually putting those recipes together for the individual beers.
I'm generally writing the recipes, I guess, but the ideas come from just about anywhere. We've brainstormed a lot of ideas together, and have definitely gotten some ideas from elsewhere, I'd say. But I'm usually the one that kind of crunches the numbers on paper and puts that together, I guess.
Gotcha. How did you come to a decision as to what beers you wanted to bring to the festival this year?
Well, we took a poll amongst our staff for one thing, and obviously it's based a lot on what we wanted to enter into the competition, and so there's a lot of factors that come in to play with that. What actually has a chance. What does the rest of the competition look like? What's particularly fresh right now? All sorts of things like that come in, factors that come into play. But we actually did end up putting a poll to our staff and kind of averaged out those numbers to see what were the most popular choices there. And then basically Gino and I put our heads together and decided which ones we really wanted to bring based on that, which ones seemed like the smartest ones. We definitely wanted to bring a variety too, because that's a huge thing for us. That's a big part of our focus, is just creating a huge variety of beers. I love brewing lagers. I love brewing hoppy beers. I love brewing, I love having something for the people that only want a 9% stout. I love having just a huge variety like that. So that is kind of central to our vision. So we wanted to bring a bit of a variety. So I think the 5 beers that we have are all, fairly different from each other, but all kind of reflect who we are at the same time. So that's kind of where it came from.
Are any of those staples on tap back in Texas?
Yeah, the Hall & Oates is a year-round beer. The Grackle is a year-round beer as well. The Cosmic Cowboy, that's our American IPA, is a year-round beer. The other 2 are rotators, but I think that they're probably ones that we'll do fairly often. So yeah, they're all beers that are popular back in the tap room at home.
And how do people drink your beer in Texas? Do you guys have a tap house? Are you distributing to any restaurants at this point? Or
We're about 90% tap room right now. We've started distributing a little bit. Gino could probably knows numbers on that better than I do. But yeah, right now we're a 15-acre property, beautiful oak grove, picnic tables. There's even a playground and snow cone stand, food truck. Totally kid and dog friendly, well-behaved kid and dog friendly, as we like to say.
Yeah, both on a leash, preferably.
Yeah, exactly. But that's generally the idea of the place. Is we've got this big property that's beautiful and inviting, and we want people to come out, spend an afternoon with their families, have a good time, have a couple of great beers, and you know, it's all about quality time. Beer's a family value.
I love that. Can I steal that? Beer is
Sure.
a family value.
Yeah, I stole it from somebody. I don't know.
And if it isn't, it should be. Now, Dripping Springs, that's outside the city limits of Austin, out there down in the wild. I've obviously never been to your estate before, but compare it to like the Salt Lick, which is something that I just visited recently in terms of like the scenery and the landscape, because I know they're pretty close.
Sure, probably comparable distance. I'd say Dripping Springs is maybe a little bit closer, but just in an opposite direction. We're about 20 minutes west of Austin, pass through a couple other small towns, and then get to Dripping Springs. And Dripping Springs has really kind of become, I think, the sort of I guess you would say, alcohol mecca of Central Texas in a way. There's wineries just galore. There's a bunch of wineries out towards Fredericksburg, which is a bit further west and probably a little bit better known. But bunch of wineries out there, a handful of distilleries, several breweries along with us, and there's a bunch of other cool stuff like you know, there's like an olive company and places like that. You know, it's really kind of like your more like your rural sort of like what would you call it, like consumable entertainment sort of a destination, I guess.
A destination's
Yeah,
a good word for it, I think, because it is that experience of just like you said, the scenery and the landscape, and the beer and company, of course.
Yeah. But and it's a beautiful area. It's just rural enough to be just really gorgeous and relaxing, and you feel like you're out in the country. But you know, we're surrounded by a lot of other cool things to do and developments and stuff like that are going on out there. So. Yeah.
So if I hopped in an Uber from the Austin airport, how long would it take me to get out there?
From the airport, what do you think?
From the airport, it'd probably be about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Something along that line, depending on how aggressive your Uber driver is.
Yeah. The airport's a little southeast, and we're kind of southwest. So yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So bringing it back to Denver, how would you guys rate your first year here in terms of a success for family business?
Oh, I think we've had a great time. We've talked to a lot of really cool people. You know, we always joke about this, that sometimes it takes coming to Denver to hang out with the people that you know from other breweries back home, you know, but we've gotten to do that a lot. So I think it's been great. We've had a blast.
Sure. Along those lines, the other beers this is always something I'm kind of reluctant to ask brewers, like, tell us about other people's beers, because they want to talk about theirs. But this is the Great American Beer Festival.
We love talking about other people's beers.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great.
That's great to hear. So what did you try this year that really maybe something that really kind of blew your mind, like something different that you'd never tried before?
Something different.
Man,
We went to a
good
beer
question.
bar in Denver that was like a serve yourself beer bar. I know that's
Yeah.
not what you're asking, but that was a pretty weird experience. That was a brand new thing for me.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a learning curve associated with that. So maybe it's a way to kind of, you know, the crowd polices itself as far as overconsumption. You know, there's card scanners and this kind of stuff, and eventually it does cut you off. We learned that.
Yeah, it's true.
Sharing one card, we're like, okay, I guess we're done here. Moving on. I think it's really cool. Like, it's been a long time since I've been in California, and it was nice to kind of be able to just walk the floor and visit some breweries that, you know, I had bottles of here and there in California, and kind of revisit them, and also see what new things that they're doing, as well as some of the local breweries here as well. We kind of, when time permit, would go out and little field trips and kind of hit up a few different local breweries. It was pretty cool.
Did you guys get any inspiration for maybe some new recipes?
Maybe we'll stew on some of those ideas a little bit, but we had a great time. We went out to Ratio, we went out to our mutual friend, a couple other places. Yeah, it's great. And Denver has some great breweries. We didn't get to make it out to Black Project, who I've loved in the past when I've been here, back when they were called Former Future. I wish we could have gotten a chance to do that. But
Yeah, and True, I think, was another one on the short
yeah,
list.
we didn't quite make it out to True this trip, but I guess next time.
Yep.
What goes into preparing for Great American Beer Fest? You guys, I mean, as soon as you get home, are you going to start prepping for 2019?
Pretty much, yeah. We were talking about that right after the awards ceremony today. What are we gonna do differently next year? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe be a little more prepared and take some extra time to kind of really figure out what we want to bring and what categories we want to enter. Because one beer, true to style, might not necessarily do as well in the category that it should be in, but in an alternate category, it may do really well. And we kind of saw that whenever they were calling out some of the winners of how people would just, move their beer from one category to another, and it ended up doing really well. So, I guess there's a level of strategy involved as well, and it's not just like, hey, I've got an amber ale. Maybe it's an American amber. Maybe it's an ESB. Who knows? So you kind of have to roll the dice a little bit, I guess.
I think a lot of consumers, and maybe this is even true for brewers as well, don't realize like how many different distinct styles have been identified in 2018. I think there was 102 categories
Something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
this year.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And this is the part where I get a little selfish and trying to educate myself. Like, what goes into distinguishing between all of those different? Like, there's 20 different IPA categories. Like, how is it the process? Is it the ingredients? Is a little bit of both?
Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah, I think it's a lot of those things, and sometimes it probably comes down to, the judge's palate and maybe what they had for breakfast that morning, and if they got a good night's sleep, or if that kind of thing. So it's But I mean, that said, there are great breweries that are winning, year after year after year. Gotta give a shout out to our buddies in Austin, the ABGB, third year in a row as large brew pub of the year, and clearly they're hitting the right notes there.
Yeah, that's saying something.
Yeah.
Gino, you're coming through a little hoarse. Have you been the mouthpiece of the business so far?
Yeah, I went hard. I'm not a talker. So the first day I was kind of having a shout over the music and everything, and I was like, all right, well, I'm done. After night one, but it'll be back, I'm sure, in time for work Monday.
Tell us a little bit about the scene in Austin. One thing we get to hear from the Denver Brewers and the Colorado Springs Brewers is how supportive they are of each other, whether it comes down to sharing ideas for recipes or, hey, man, I'm out of grain. Can I borrow a bag from you? Is that kind of similar to what you guys experience?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's just kind of a fact of life, I think, in our industry. I think what all of us realize is that none of us are really in competition with each other, and we've got another much bigger, more evil competitor out there that we need to stick together against, I guess. But yeah, for sure, whether it's like you said, I'm a little short on this grain, can I borrow some? I'm short on this hop, can I borrow some? To collaborations, to just, if nothing else, just telling everybody else how great each other is, or recommending each other to people. I think we all realize that rising tide raises all ships, or whatever the expression is, and that vibe is definitely there. I think a lot of us just consider each other friends and compatriots.
That's good to hear. Everyone here loves beer.
Yeah.
This is also a pop culture podcast. I want to know if you guys would share with me, outside of beer, what do you guys get into? What scratches your geek itch?
I hadn't been in the industry as long as Nate has, obviously. It's been all-consuming for me, I think I take mental vacations when I've got time off, and just kind of like look at far-off, distant lands, and like, man, maybe one day I'll have a break from work and I'll be able to go out there and do that. But I guess in the same breath, I absolutely love doing this. If my wife would let me do it 18 hours a day, I'd be there every day, all day, just fully involved. But, sleep, music helps. We're actually training for a half marathon, and my brother-in-law is going to do the whole marathon in Seattle. So that's pretty exhausting as well, if there's any leftover energy after work. So.
Yeah, normally running long distances and drinking beer are two things that don't go together.
Well, I do one so I can do the other.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really good way to look at it because the calories, man. That's,
Exactly. Calories in, calories out.
Yeah. I run a bit too, and I think it's pretty necessary. I mean, I'm in my early 40s and I work with beer for a living. I have to exercise to, or it's just not going to work out. But yeah, it's almost a little bit embarrassing to say that when my wife and I need to get out of the house, probably at least half the time we're going to a brewery. But we're in this business because it's a hobby and it's something we love to do. But yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's so many great breweries in Austin. To what Nate was saying, we've got friends in the industry. They're all over Austin, and it takes coming to Denver or being in Tennessee or something along that line and seeing them and be like, man, we're trying to get out to your brewery one of these days. They're maybe 30 miles away, but it seems like such an uphill battle to try and get over there. And so, like you were saying, they're coming over to our booth and we're going over to theirs and actually getting to try their beer and kind of hang out and talk. So it's always a good time to bond and hang out with other breweries and get inspiration and always pitch a collaboration here and there with a few close friends.
Yeah.
Some friendos.
Yeah. Keep an eye out for friendos.
I've noticed there's a lot of trending towards the barrel-aged beer this year and last year. I wondered if you guys could talk a little inside baseball with me. What's coming up? What do you think is on the cusp that we're going to start seeing next year in brewing?
As far as just some new trend, whether it's barrel-aged or not.
Right.
Or the brutes, I've noticed, are
the
one that are on the rise.
The brute is kind of a big new thing. That's true. I think there are some. I've been reading up and also hearing a lot from other brewers about these Norwegian yeasts that everybody's so excited by, these Kvik yeasts, and so that may become a thing by next year. That'd be cool. I think the sour thing is going to continue to grow, both barrel aged and quick sours. Those have been kind of in a way, outside of those hazy IPAs, I feel like that's kind of been the biggest trend of the last few years. So.
Yeah, and we've had some success in our tasting room as well with kettle sours. So we've got one, the Spree, which is a classic Berliner Weiss, and then we do a fruited version of that as well with fresh watermelon juice and basil. So that's been pretty popular, especially in Austin, Dripping Springs, where it's like 105 degrees, or has been at least for the last month or so.
And when he says some success, he means it immediately became our best-selling beer in the tap room.
The watermelon.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and just those variations on various quick soured beers. I think there's a lot of people that there are a lot of people that love beer, that love those types of beers, but I feel like we've also had a lot of people that have come out to see us that maybe got dragged along by another, say a friend or a family member or whatever, that don't think that they like beer until they have one of those and get turned on by it. So I think that style will continue to grow.
Yeah.
That's a great answer.
That heat and the humidity that you mentioned is the
yeah.
first thing I think of whenever Austin comes to mind.
Yeah.
You've now had the benefit of being able to brew in different parts of the country. How much does the climate, the regional climate, affect the actual brewing process?
I think there's a reason that lagers are so big in Texas, honestly. So basically the best lagers in the country, maybe the world, are coming out of Texas right now, and I think that's part of the reason for that, for sure. So, I brewed for a time in the Pacific Northwest, and it was all dry hoppy beers up there, and it just kind of makes sense when you're up there. That's kind of what you want, I feel like, So there's got to be something to that as well.
Yeah, and I will say the actual temperature down there does affect the brewing process. I know we try and turn everything over as fast as we can. As far as having grain, we don't want to keep it in-house too long because it is warm, it is humid out there. Our specific brewery is an environmentally sensitive area, so we actually truck all of our water in that we use for the brewing process, and we have a storage tank. So we're having to manage that water responsibly, and same thing. We don't want it to sit out there in the sun too long. So it's being treated and brought in and filtered and all that kind of stuff. So try and use the freshest products we have available to us.
I know you guys said you flew here. How do you get all your beer here?
Oh, it gets shipped up as the Texas Craft Brewers Guild actually puts together a shipment that members of the guild can basically bring all their kegs or their competition submissions in bottles or cans or whatever to a particular brewery. I think we dropped off the competitive beer at Austin Beer Works this year, and then the festival floor beer at Live Oak this year, and it goes up on a truck altogether. So that's pretty cool. We've got a guild that's hugely supportive as well. It's not just the other breweries supporting each other, but we've got a guild that's really trying to look out for the best interests of all the breweries that are operating here in Texas. And so
That's awesome. Got to make your life easy, yeah,
That's
or
great.
easier, I should say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
it does.
sure. Yeah,
You guys have enough left to last through this Saturday evening session?
I think so.
We'll see.
I don't know. Yeah,
We'll see if we can rally.
I think it might be
whenever they
close,
do
but I
last
think
call.
I think we'll make it.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned you might be a little reluctant to leave the respite of the quiet hallway here to get back there. What do you guys got going
It
on
is
tonight?
it is awfully nice down here. Yeah.
Are you just headed back to the booth after this and round out the night?
Yeah, I think so. We're hearing whispers of what some of the other Texas breweries are doing, and so we're kind of like, hey, give me a shout if you guys are going to go out and do anything. And so I'm sure that's probably where we'll end up.
Yeah.
Unless my wife's listening, then I'm going back to the hotel and I'm going to sleep. But we'll play it by ear.
Well,
That's awesome.
I really appreciate you guys taking some time to
Oh, yeah.
sit down and talk with us. It's such a pleasure to be able to meet people who are doing the
Likewise.
things that you do. As a fan of beer, thank you for taking up the craft because I think it's underappreciated how much effort really goes into it. And, aside from the blood, sweat, and tears, you're part mechanic and part biologist and part chemist and part farmer. I mean, it's just such a discipline that requires so many different talents. And, again, as a beer fan, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
This is really fun to do, and it's a huge privilege to be able to do something that you would do as a hobby or would pay to do anyway for a living. So we feel we're lucky we're able to do this kind of stuff anyway.
That
So
is a
thank
fantastic
you for
way to
having
look
us.
at it.
Yeah.
And can we find you guys, or our listeners, I should say, we'll find you, but Facebook, Twitter, where can we follow
Yep.
you all at?
All that stuff.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
Instagram you mentioned earlier, Gino?
Yeah, we are on Instagram. If you give me 1 second, I can grab the handle for you.
Sure, man. Take your time. We're in no hurry. And when we end up publishing an episode on this, we'll have all this information.
Okay.
We'll
very
add it
cool.
in. But
Cool.
Yeah, we're Family Business Beer Co. On Instagram. I think it's the same thing on Facebook as well.
gotcha. Those are the two best places to
Yeah.
see what you guys are up to.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. Or just come down to the tasting room, come hang out with us and see firsthand.
That's I know that's on my list of things to do next time I'm in Austin. I'm in there fairly regularly. It's such a great city. Their culture is I don't even know how to describe it. It's a little bit of tradition and a lot of forward thinking kind of rolled into this really great scene with
Yep.
music
true.
and beer.
Yep.
Entertaining.
It's everything that you want in a city.
It is, and if
Yeah.
it wasn't so fucking hot, I would probably spend more time.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got my fingers crossed. We're at the end of the hot season. I think it's going to rain for a little while, and then hopefully
has been, yeah.
the weather will kind of balance out.
Has it been a nice weekend in Colorado for you guys, comparatively
been great.
speaking?
Yeah,
Good.
it's pretty
It's
nice.
been
I
good.
think it hasn't been too hot in Austin, but it's been thunderstormy, so I guess it's good to not be in that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for being the first brewery willing to sit down with us here on
Oh, yeah.
Tap
Thank you
In.
for having us.
Geek
Anytime.
Out.
This is fun.
Anything else you want to pimp or shout out to?
I think Nate was going to sing a song, actually. Go ahead.
Nice.
No? All right,
I-
next time.
I don't know any songs.
Yeah, okay. We'll practice we'll work on something, and next time we sit down with you guys, we'll
Yeah,
do it
Next
live.
time, we're
That's
going to
right.
hold you to that.
we'd love to.
Okay.
Yeah,
Looking forward to
that'd
that.
be great. Yeah,
I just play the guitar, so.
Hey, you got a band then, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
there you
basically.
Well, thanks.
go. Yeah, thank you guys for
so
having
much.
us. Appreciate it.
Family Business
Take
Beer
care.
Company.
Cheers.
That was fun.
Hey, yeah, man, that was fun. Thank you so much.
so much.
Yeah,
that was great.
This is our hobby too, so we always appreciate it.
Yeah, when people come by to talk to us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And people love hearing this stuff too.
Yeah.
As much as they like drinking about beer, they like talking about it.
Yeah.
People like listening to it too.
Yeah, and you always learn something, like kind of meeting the people behind the product is really cool, and kind of hearing what they have to say. I know I kind of freaked out on podcasts for a while and was just like back to back to back to back. I had them hooked up on my phone, so anytime I was in my truck, my Bluetooth would turn on and it was another podcast, and so it's cool to kind of like understand where people's minds are, and what got them to the point that they're at. So
Yeah.
pretty cool.
All right,
It's cool to get to do that.
Yeah, good luck with the final session tonight. Yeah,
Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
great.
I think so.
Yeah, you guys will be fine now.
We're flying pretty early, so
I know.
gotta
I'm
get
working
protect
on
your
it, man.
pipes,
I'm
yeah.
gonna put this,
Thanks.
Yeah, brother, absolutely.
Cheers.
Anytime.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks, brother.
Really appreciate
Seriously,
it.
man.
Yeah, thanks.
Take care. Travel safe. We'll follow up with you guys next week after you get back. And
All right,
get
sounds
settled.
Okay, right on. Take care.
Okay. Forgot we're still live.
Oh yeah, we are. I guess we probably should be talking, huh?
No, God, those guys were great. Let's see. For those that are listening, our next brewer is who is next? Oh, it's the Little Apple Brewing Company. I can't wait to talk to these guys.
So we've got your hometown brewery next, which is great. I'm glad that we decided to do that, to pick one beer from where you grew up, and we picked a brewery from where I grew up.
We did. And I guarantee you when you live there and probably even were in college that craft beer wasn't a thing in either one of our states.
No, it wasn't. I'm going to ask him about that when they come on. You know, how did Augusta go from barely having a bar to having a craft beer scene?
So how is it that they were able to sit back that far and sound that good? Because I can't do that.
I can't do it either. I don't know how, but I was shocked at the distance he was from the mic and the sound I was getting through my cans. So,
Yeah, maybe we should ask them for tips on how to do this.
yeah, maybe they're better podcasters too.
How to fill dead air. Oh, you know what? Let's get a really honest, visceral reaction. Speaking of Manhattan, Kansas,
Oh yeah, let's see what happened today.
because it wasn't pretty when I stopped watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Blart Mall Cop. It was really cool of that dude to stand right behind their microphones and start yelling too.
Yeah,
Maybe we should explain to him how this works.
no respect. Oh well, we're the ones that decided to podcast in the hallway.
That is true, but you know what? I like the hallway better than I like the media room. It's one thing, guys, if you're going to get into podcasting, plan on sitting in a lot of hallways. That's going to happen.
Oh my gosh.
I also say that I've been doing a geek podcast for a while, and now I'm doing this podcast too. And the level of organization at Great American Beer Fest is unbelievable compared to conventions and things like that we've done in the past. So I want to give mad props to everyone here at GABF who's taken such good care of us. It's been wonderful.
So the good news is that we got to watch the last points that West Virginia scored, so they didn't really score in the third or the fourth quarter, but unfortunately K-State Oling managed another field goal since that.
All right, and also we are fan serving here, so I'm going to give a shout out to someone that just sent me a message, Dr. Scott Forney. Thanks for tuning in, man. We really appreciate it.
And we've got our next guest live there. It's Sean.
Sean, correct, yeah. Sean Howard.
Oh, Sean, you have a voice for podcasting.
Oh, I was going to say the same about you guys. I was like, man, I put these headphones on. You guys sound great. But, yeah, try try to use that low voice for the listeners.
Oh yeah, the girls love it.
The guys love it even more.
That
I've heard.
that's
know.
that's
I
true.
I can neither confirm or deny that the guys love it just as much. But
Sean, you're with the Little Apple Brewing Company from Manhattan, Kansas. You just heard me expressing my woes for the Wildcats' fortunes this year. I'm an alumni.
yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah.
It broke my heart a little bit.
Yeah.
So my very first question for you out of the gate is, in a state like this, what beer do I drown my sorrows in?
Oh man. Well, first of all, you got to come to our booth and come get some of our fruit salad shorts. It's a sour golden wheat with pineapple and pink guava, and it's been going over really, really well. I'm kind of surprised. I mean, it was kind of a little bit of a slow mover. Sours are kind of starting to catch on in our area in Manhattan, and it went over really well there. But it was a little bit slower, and just people have been hammering it here. So I'm just super excited about that. Was pretty hopeful for a medal. We didn't get one, but a lot of the Kansas breweries did. So that's even more cool.
And I'd certainly say, I don't know, I probably had 100 beers yesterday. You guys certainly deserve one. I will go back for seconds if something is phenomenal. I had
Yeah.
thirds
Oh yeah.
of that beer.
Of that beer. Oh,
I'm a
thank you.
big
That's
fruit
amazing.
beer fan, and I thought that the way that you guys nailed the taste of that was phenomenal. It was I liked the rest of your beer too, don't get me wrong, but that beer completely stood out to me, not only out of your table, but out of the entire festival yesterday.
Well, that's awesome to hear. That's very very flattering, and I certainly appreciate that. That seems to be the case too. I mean, even I went back for thirds yesterday as well. So, but I mean, yeah, I've sometimes it takes a little bit of selling. You're like, what do I want to try? And it's like, here, try this, and you give it to them. They're like, oh, I'm back, and they want another one, and it's really, really cool to have that happen, and just to be, a small brewery from Manhattan, Kansas, and people are just like, wow, this is my favorite beer that I've tried so far. I'm like, well, you probably haven't tried these, thousands of beers that are here yet, but and you can't even get very close to that. But if that just just getting a nice compliment on something that you sweat and bleed over, that it just makes it all worth the while, the long hours and everything else. So.
Was that beer just for the festival, or is that a staple back at your brew house?
That's just kind of something something weird that I did. We've got a few of the employees at the at the brewery that enjoy sours and fruited beers, and some of them that hate them, and it's kind of a funny story. We do have one of our bartenders and slash managers that is just not about sour beers, and so I was gonna brew a sour beer either way. Regardless, so I was just like, whatever, and just kind of out of spite, and I was like, whatever, dude. And, so I was getting called dingus, whatever that means, for wearing these fruit salad shorts, literally fruit salad shorts. I'll pull up a picture for you guys here in a little bit, and you can laugh at me or with me. But they're just these board shorts, because I was, it's like 120 degrees back there in the brew house sometimes in the summer when I'm brewing, and so I'm wearing these board shorts, and I can just hose myself down and not have any worries about ruining my shorts, really. But so I wore them quite often in the summer, and I was getting called dingus and among other things, and I thought it was kind of funny. So kind of out of spite, that beer kind of turned from just like, well, I'm gonna do a sour, and these shorts are gonna be the inspiration as well, and they've got pineapples and kiwis and stuff all over them. But yeah, the pink guava and the pineapple seems to be a really good combination in that beer. It kind of came across as like somebody told me like a wedding punch, like that red grog with the big ladle in it, you know what I mean? Or like, I've been telling people like, remember that big ladle hanging out of that bowl at your middle school dance where you had to like have a balloon between you because you didn't want to get too close and get cooties or whatever. But yeah, and they're like, that is right. Yeah, it tastes like that big fruit punch bowl. And I'm like, yeah, pretty good spot on descriptor, I guess.
We've heard a lot of beer origin stories. I promise you, that's the first one we've ever heard that was inspired by a
By my
pair of
shorts.
shorts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And people were like, why? I'm like, well, I got fruit salad shorts, man.
And I love that you're giving the listeners like the visual of the
Yeah.
fruit punch too. That's
Well, I probably shouldn't talk as much of how much I sweated over brewing that beer, but not in the beer, guys. So if you're listening, you're like, God, that sounds disgusting. It wasn't in the beer. It's not a goza. It's just a sour ale. No salt in that one.
That's your recipe. The other two that you brought to the festival this year, at least the two that were up there when Eric and I stopped by for the Friday night session, was a Prairie Pale Ale and the Riley's Red Ale. Were those both also your? Actually, you know what? The first thing I should ask, in addition to are those your recipes, is like, are you the only brewer at the Little Apple, or do
I
you
am
get
the
some
only
help?
brewer. Yeah, I don't even have a little buddy back there. I'm just everything. So the brewery side, I brew and then have to clean up afterward. And I mean, obviously, you can't just leave stuff around, but cleaning tanks and moving beers and kegging up beers for festivals, going to the festivals. It's just the whole brew side is me, and it's kind of brutal sometimes and long days. If I'm gonna take a few days off, like for this, just I think. What day did we come out here? Wednesday morning. So Wednesday night, I think I ended at like 17 and a half hour day. I ended up having to brew twice just so when I get back, my tanks are full and the beers are, getting about where they need to be and start tasting good, and I can get ready to transfer those and try to keep up because, you take more than 3-4 days off and it ends up being a catch-up game. You're chasing your tail for quite a while trying to keep caught up and get caught up and all that other good stuff. So
I know how I feel when I get home and someone's drinking all my beer. I can imagine it's only worse for you.
Yeah, we kind of got hammered too because we had a couple of home games back to back. So I think it was 2 weekends, and it was move-in for all the students coming back, and then we had our Oktoberfest, and I was like looking at the tanks. I was like, oh my God, these are getting kind of low. Just trying to keep up, but so I just cranked out a couple batches before we left just to try to stay on top and also recover from just getting those beers hammered on at those home games. It was nonstop, and mad props to the rest of the staff and the kitchen staff as well. They're just crazy machines back there.
How long have you been with Little Apple?
I've only been there for, let's see, so May 1st would have been a year, so somewhere around like 15 months, 16 months, something like that. So.
Were you there just in time to do Great American Beer Festival last year? Were you guys here?
Last year, yeah. So May 1st, yeah, just kind of hit the ground running because all the deadlines start coming out for GABF in the first part of June. So, yeah, it was like hit the ground running with that, just getting all the deadlines met, and as well as the Oktoberfest. I did three German-style beers, the same ones I did this year, Oktoberfest Lager, a Kolsch, and an Alt beer. And, so the Oktoberfest Lager, took me about 2 months last year. I kind of got it shaved off a little bit. I've only got 3 fermenters, so I kind of have to, plan things and get caught up, stay caught up, and then be like, okay, this beer's going to take a while, and then I have a little bit more time to kind of play around and get more things accomplished. But it's, I'm just thinking about it. It's like, oh man, daunting. But I got a little bit more time to start worrying about that again for next year. But
you guys opened when I was in school in 1995.
Yeah.
And I imagine that the beer scene in Manhattan, Kansas looks completely different now.
Yeah, it's definitely changed a little bit. I mean, going from being the only brewery, and then in 2007, Tallgrass popped up, and they were around and opened a pub, and unfortunately they closed their doors this year. Tallgrass did. I don't know all the juicy details on that, and that's unfortunate. I've got a lot of good friends out there that are out of the job now, and they're making great beers as well. So they will definitely be missed. But the tap house is still downtown. They're going to be hanging out and still doing what they do, and they're making some great beers as well. So we've got that going for us. I think Manhattan needs 2, 3, 5 more breweries, and just make a destination of it for the craft beer drinkers and keep everybody happy.
How long have you been in Manhattan?
So I've been in Manhattan since, let's see, I think it was November 1st, 2012. We rolled into town. I was still in the Army, did the old Army thing. I re-enlisted when I was in Washington State because I loved it up there. It was beautiful, and there was a lot of great beer up there. And
You at Fort Lewis?
Yes, yeah.
I lived there for a year.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there. Camping, fishing, oh my God, it's just amazing. I wanted to stay there, so when I was in Afghanistan, I re-enlisted before we came home. They told me I didn't have the stability option to stay there, and then so they were just like, oh, just do needs of the Army, it'll be fine. So I was like, all right. I mean, lots of people have done that for a number of years, and they're still here, 13 years later or whatever. And it was about a week or two after we got home from that deployment, I got orders, and it said Fort Riley, Kansas, and I'm like, that can't be right. There's nothing out there in Kansas, right? So I had to Google it about 6 or 7 times, and I was like, well, I had to sit my wife down and have that conversation. Like, how do you feel about Kansas? And she's like, why? Like, why are you asking this weird question over dinner? And I'm like, because we're going there. And so we ended up getting out there and found out Kansas isn't as flat as we thought it was. And actually, the Flint Hills area is actually really beautiful, and we fell in love with Manhattan. There's always something going on. The city does a great job of putting things on, and the parks and rec and all those guys do a phenomenal job of maintaining river trails and our linear trail and all these awesome things that are out there. So anybody that's in Manhattan that may be listening, definitely find Parks and Rec on Facebook and follow them. You can find out everything that's going on. It's just mind-blowing how much is actually going on once you find out who to get the inside digs from. But yeah, we fell in love, and we ended up buying a place, and we're still there. And and we were kind of thinking about, like, well, once you get out of the Army, what are you going to do? And I knew I wanted to brew, and we were kind of thinking maybe we'll move somewhere else. My wife's from Arizona, so we were thinking maybe go back there, and there's a lot of great breweries there. I'm originally from California. There's a ton of breweries there, so we were like, well, we got options. But we just kind of fell in love with Manhattan, and we stuck around, and we haven't been sorry about it. We've got a great bunch of friends, and it's just a great place. You can get outside and do anything you can do anywhere else, plus more, I think. But I might be a little biased because I love Manhattan.
So are you full-time reserves now and full-time brewing?
No, I was active, and then I just got out in 16? 16, I think it was. I had a lot of terminal leave built up, so I got to sign out, and I had 2 months that I was still getting paid by the Army, and I was down actually working at the Tallgrass Tap House for a little while, and as a bartender, just to have a little bit of extra fun money coming in, I guess. And then finally got in the brew house with one of my good friends, Brandon Gunn. What up, man? He's at Kansas Territory up in Washington, Kansas.
Oh, nice.
Couldn't make it out this year. They were doing a big shebang out in the middle of a field where the band Kansas was going to come and rock their faces off, and they were going to supply all the beer. So I was like, well, you're still having fun out there, man, so have a good time.
Want to make a point to thank you for your service?
Yeah, absolutely. We do it because we love what we have here, and we love all of you. So
I'm going to guess you have not shaved since your last day in the
that is
military.
correct. Actually, I stopped shaving. I think it was the day. It was the day before I signed out, and I was like, stick it to the man. I'm not shaving ever again, and I haven't. I left it alone.
Craft beer, craft beard.
Yeah.
You've been a busy guy. Seriously, how did you pick up that skill in that short amount of... You went from doing what you were doing in the military to being the only brewer at the preeminent brewery in Manhattan,
It's kind of crazy.
Kansas.
Yeah, I do take a lot of pride in brewing at the original Manhattan, Kansas brewery, and we do have a GABF gold medal that we acquired back in I think it was '96, so it's just after opening about a year later, with I think it was called what was it called? It was a barley wine. I can't remember the name of it that actually won it, but I need to get a new medal for us to hang up on the wall. It went missing sometime around when that brewer left, and I heard the story wasn't. I don't know. It's kind of funny to me, but I guess he kind of stormed out and took the medal with him. But cool. We'll get a replacement.
I'm shocked that the fruit salad shorts didn't get you another medal. Just my opinion.
Yeah.
But
well, I certainly appreciate that. And again, that's very flattering, and it's really, I don't know. There's so many great beers, and it's just one of those things, Just got to try harder next year, I guess. But yeah, there's just a ton of so many good beers, and it's a huge competition. So it's, if you win something, you even go to the final round. I mean, that's just phenomenal. I can't wait to just get the tasting notes from the judges back and see what they said. If there's any good pointers that I can pick up and maybe try to I guess tailor it a little bit to their liking, and come back and hit it again next year and see what we can do. because that would be mind blowing. I told my friends, I was like, I'm gonna have to wear some rubber underwear, because if they call my name, they call that beer, I'm going to pee everywhere.
I have a feeling I know that's going to make it into one of your brews names.
Probably.
The next inspiration there.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to get out and drink some other beer here at the festival?
Oh yeah, we've been wandering around. There's a lot of us that came out. Charlie and Don from the restaurant came out, and my wife's here as well. I've got a good friend Matt that's here with me. His wife's here. Don's girlfriend is here, so we're rolling pretty deep. We've had of course the volunteers are just phenomenal. Half the time they won't even let you get behind the booth and pour. They're like, you worked so hard for this all year long and met all these, hitting all these deadlines and just running around like a crazy person. So go enjoy yourself, go have some beers. And I'm like, thank you, I appreciate that. But you also feel kind of bad because they're just like standing there pouring beer and they're like, this is what we're here for, man. But
it's cool, though, that when you're not pouring the beer, you've got time to talk to someone like myself. Because I make a point when I really like something, not only to tell the brewer, but let's have a 2-minute conversation about it.
Yeah.
I've never met a brewer that wasn't proud of their beer and didn't want to talk about their beer, and that's kind of what I got to experience yesterday. And I like sharing the love, man. If I taste something that you made that tastes phenomenal, I'm going to tell you about it, man, because I can't get fruit salad shorts in Colorado. I will only ever get to have that this weekend. And it was one of those beers yesterday that I told Doug, I said, if he would sell me a 12-pack right now that I could just take out of my backpack, I would buy it. I would take it home and I'd savor it, drink it on holidays or something like that, something special. That's how tasty your beer was.
It's a really good patio beer. If it's hot and the sun's blazing down on you, or you get done mowing the lawn or something, you're sweaty, and it's just nice and refreshing. That crisp little. It's not too sour, and that's kind of what I needed to go with to get that kind of accepted in Manhattan, since they're kind of slowly starting to catch on to the sours a little bit. Don't want to go too tart for them, but yeah, I totally agree. If I could have a 12-pack of that, I'd take it too. The last 2 kegs in existence are here at the festival, and it breaks my heart. It brings a tear to my eye.
Are you going to make it again, or is that it?
I think I'm definitely going to have to make it again, especially just receiving the positive feedback from people coming around the booth and trying it. It's just been great, and again, a lot of people that are coming to our restaurant and sitting at the bar and just hammering that beer, and they just don't want to drink anything else. That's just their beer. I'm like, I'm gonna have to do this again, I think, and hopefully I can nail it again. Have a second version. They're like, well, this one's not as good as the first one, but
I think you're going to see a trend towards a lot of people like myself. I don't really get into the IPAs. There's a couple of them I can drink, and they taste great. But you give me something like the fruit salad shorts, that's a beer I would order all night long and would continue to drink it. So you're going to see a trend, I think, as you get more casual people into drinking beer, I should say, that the fruit beers, I think, they're going to sell well. I really do. Again, this is just my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of guys that come in there like, well, I won't want to try that because girls drink beers with fruit in there, or like, it's like, it's bastardizing. It's just something that a lot of us like to do it. It's fun to see those combinations of fruits and the way it plays with the acidity of the beer, and how it kind of complements the malt and just various aspects of the beer that just kind of come together, and it just does its own thing. And I think that's one of the things that why people want to do it. It's just, and also there's crazy things out there. Like I had like this really good it was a Neapolitan Berliner, and it was something that I would have never thought of, but it had like lactose and like vanilla beans and cacao nibs and strawberries, and it was just like, this thing is like a sour beer, but it's like also like I'm eating ice cream right now. It's fantastic, but it's just combinations of weird things that I think that things that you wouldn't think that would work well together, and it's just really exciting to see that people are like doing the coolest, craziest things. It's just mind blowing. I don't know.
Do you find when you get to attend an event like this that drinking other beers inspires you to come up with your own recipes, not necessarily copying them, but I can definitely do it like this?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's a great thing about the craft beer community as well. Like, nobody's really like, oh, well, they stole that idea from me. because you're using the same fruit. A lot of people are using the same fruit or the same, like, I mean, how many people are brewing pilsners or light lagers, and nobody's like, I did a light lager first or whatever, like that was my idea, but so I think it's there's so many different awesome beers out there that you're just gonna taste them and be like, wow, I never thought that would have worked, and then you're like, I should definitely try to do that or play with that, or just tweak this a little bit or put a little bit of that in there. It's just fun to play with. Bust out the pilot system and start doing some small batches, and then throw that one keg that'll do on, well, for me at least. People have bigger pilot systems, probably the size of my actual brew house at the brewery, but I'll just produce 10 gallons and throw it on tap and see what people think, and if it's well received, then it's something that I'll scale up and brew a bigger batch. But yeah, it's there's a lot of great beers out there, way too many beers to be completely honest. But yeah, very inspirational. There's a lot of things that I'm thinking about in my noggin right now.
Could you maybe share a little bit about what's coming up in the future for Little Apple?
Yeah, I've got a few ideas. So last year I actually did an IPA, and typically I'll throw on a pale of some sort, or I did a rye. That was a rye pale ale as well. I like to keep another hoppy beer option on there. Usually we've got the Prairie Pale Ale on tap. It's one of the 5 flagships, so it's always going to be on tap. And sometimes people want something else, so I've been trying to kind of rotate through hoppy beers. So last year, one that I did, which was called Cobra Jet Ski, because I like to name things weird names, but
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's a Kung Fury reference. I don't know if you guys have seen that 30-minute movie, and it's amazing.
Absolutely, we have.
That scene where he goes to heaven and that Cobra's on the jet ski, and I was like, that's my beer name right there. I probably had too many beers that night and was pulled out my phone, was like, Apple Notes, Cobra Jet Ski, and then went back to it the next day and was like, this is absurd, but I went with it, and it, it's weird names catch people's eye, their eyes, and they.
That's how we picked half the beers we drank last night.
There's a lot of, some of them are such great names too. In the award ceremony, there were so many that I was just cracking up over, But yeah, so I'll be doing Cobra Jet Ski again this year. It went really fast last year. Typically, if something's moving pretty quick, it'll go in about 3, 4, 5 weeks out of the serving tanks. And this one went in 2 weeks, and I was just blown away that people liked it that much. And I was like, wow, that it's just I don't know, I just felt so great over it. And did a nice kind of robust porter, and that was also very well received. So I'm going to do those again this year. I'm considering doing the I called it Let It Ride, spelled with the R-Y-E, because I'm clever, because there's a rye pale ale. I'm so smart. I made up a clever, witty beer name. And that one went over pretty well as well. So I might try to squeeze that guy in there as well. But I'm also kind of gearing up to do a double black IPA version of our Prairie Pale Ale. Because I've been having a lot of people harassing me, wanting the biggest and the hoppiest beers, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'll let you have it. I'm just gonna go this big, crazy gangster black IPA. It's just gonna be out of my mind, and probably force people out of their minds as well if they have too many.
What are the base ingredients for a black IPA?
So I'm using some debittered black. What else am I using? Some midnight wheat, some stuff that's not going to really add a lot of bitterness or too much roast in the final product. So it'll taste like you're drinking, if you have your eyes closed, you're just like, wow, that's a big IPA. And then you open your eyes and you're like, wow, that looks like midnight right there. So it's kind of trying to freak people's minds a little bit. Because a lot of people, well, I mean, not necessarily a lot of people, but some people that don't understand that the color of the beer doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be super boozy or super bitter, or, I mean, this one will be because I'm going to toss a ton of hops in it. But yeah, it's, I've been considering doing, a black wheat as well, just something that it's just black as night and just tastes like, summertime. Just to be like, there, you see that? That's crazy, right?
We've got a segment on the show about everyone's first beer. We're not going to ask everybody this, but I feel like you and I have a vibe, and I also feel like you probably have a pretty good I remember my first beer story.
First beer. Oh man.
And it can be the first beer you drank, or maybe the first beer you
made.
brewed.
So this was when I was 21, right?
Right.
Wink, wink. So when I was a young buck at 21 years, no, I mean, are we talking like when old Grandpappy would, taste my Budweiser or whatever?
We have heard that story once or twice.
I mean, yeah, so, man, it's kind of a hard one. There's a couple of stories, I guess, that I could go with, but I mean, I remember one time we were up in it's Posey, California, so it's up in the hills, kind of an hour up in the hills above Bakersfield, California.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you guys know where Bakersfield is. So up there, it's where my parents live now. It's my great grandfather had 32, or it was bigger then. It had 16 acres on the side. I don't know. Irrelevant. But it's 32 acres now. So I've been going up there since I was a kid. My dad when he was a kid, and we used to go up there and just kind of screw around. We'd go squirrel hunting with my great grandfather up there. But I remember when I was, God, I don't even know how old I was, but we were up there and probably a hunting trip or something. We were all together, my great grandfather and my dad and me, and I think my dad was really into Red Dog. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
So he was like really into Red Dog. I remember he was like collecting. He would like throw the caps in like a pitcher, and I was like, "You got a lot of Red Dog caps in here, Dad." But I think that was like one of the first ones that he like let me taste, and I was like, "This is terrible. This beer stuff is not good." But another I guess not as interesting story, and that one wasn't very interesting as well. There was no real climax to that story. Sorry, everyone. Was just sitting with my cousin. I guess he was like in high school, and I was like not even in high school, and we were just drinking, I guess, Budweisers and like Miller Genuine Draft, and just drinking them to try to get drunk, I guess. But they were just all just so bad. We're like, these aren't great, especially when you're like 21.
It does make you kind of wonder why we kept doing it.
Yeah, it's like we should have gave up, but no, and then you have like Neapolitan ice creams now. It's just we've come a long way.
And thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if I'd still be drinking beer. When they first tried when I was 21 to get me to drink beer, I said, no, this natural light that you're drinking 24 of, this is terrible.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I had a Sam Adams Boston Lager, I was like, oh, wait a minute. And as you know, I mean, that even then, that was a rarity.
Oh,
now, when you go to something like this and you have something like the fruit salad shorts, you're like, beer has come so far in such a short period of time.
Yeah, one of the beers that actually got me into craft beer was Inversion Inversion IPA.
It's good beer.
Yeah, it's great beer.
And I was so sad. I went to Deschutes and I was like, so no Inversion today, and they're like, Inversion is no longer with us, and I was like, that's the beer that started it all for me. But I did have an LG Mirror Pond, so I was happy with Mirror Pond. It's one of my favorite pale ales, and that's for a good reason.
I was just looking at the time when we sat down. We were actually about 15 minutes ahead of schedule, and now we're almost back on track. So,
Oh heck yeah!
No, that's good.
sorry for keeping you longer than
No,
we had planned.
I don't have anything else to do. I'll hang here all night with you guys. You guys are cool. You sound great through the headphones.
What do you have on tap for the rest of the night? Pun intended.
I mean, at the booth or just in general. What am I up to? I guess just walking around, checking on the booth. I'm trying to stay around the booth and help pour. Like I said, the volunteers we have up there are great. They were with us the first night, and I was like, man, I'm gonna miss you guys when you're not here tomorrow and the Saturday morning session. But they're back, so Habanero Bob is what he's called, and his daughter Stephanie. They're awesome. So if they listen to this, thank you guys so much for helping us.
He doesn't go with Bob and Yarrow?
That's what I would say. I'm going to pitch that to him.
Tell him Eric from Tap In Geek Out has his back, but you can take all the credit for the
Bob
joke.
and Yarrow, yeah, that's great. I like that. But yeah, I mean, just hanging out at the booth and talking to people. It's awesome when people come up. They're like, "This beer is awesome," or they're like, "This beer is trash." So you're like, "Yeah, I know, whatever." Just talk to them, and it's just great to be here every year. It's just so much fun. There's so many great people, and there's no drama. Nobody's starting fights or anything. Everybody's just here for the same reasons, just to drink some awesome beers and try beers that you don't get in your region, or beers that don't leave the state, like say us or anybody else that just has a small little place. You get to experience a lot of the little guys that can't really send their beers out and around, and it's just great. So I think I'm gonna probably just walk around and drink a bunch of beers and talk a bunch of beers and drink more beers.
Well, thank you for sitting down to talk to
Absolutely.
us tonight. When we were selecting breweries to speak with, we wanted a brewer from each of our respective college towns.
Yeah.
Fortunately, no one is here from my college town of Athens, Georgia, but Doug did get to have someone from his town. Even though his team lost the game today,
Yeah.
this kind of makes up for it. So we really
I've been
appreciate
seeing
that.
the tailgating photos.
I would have to say that Little Apple was probably my first craft beer too.
Oh, no kidding.
That's awesome.
Well, I mean, since
It's kind of ironic
I
when
was
I'm sitting here then.
the age, when I could
Yeah.
actually start drinking legally.
In school with your fake ID coming into the pub. Yeah.
No, I remember. Okay, so now I'm going to show, talk about more about how old I am. I worked at the Musicland or Sam Goody that was in the Manhattan Town Center.
Okay.
When I was in school there, and we did our company party at the Little Apple. I think the first year that it was open,
Oh, nice.
maybe the second, but I think that was that was my first craft beer. Certainly poured off of a tap for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Crazy, man.
And that's
Small world.
fast forward too many years, and that's still
Just a couple.
that's still the way that people can taste your beer, correct?
Yeah. So we've got 10 taps, and I do what I can to keep them full for the most part. But like I said, I'm one person, so sometimes I'm out of stuff. Forgive me, Manhattan. I'm sorry, but you run out of the pale ale, and you'll get ran out of town with torches and pitchforks, man. It's crazy. There's a loyal group of regulars that come in every day, and yeah, some of them will let you know how they feel about if you run out of something for sure.
I won't ask you to get into business specifics because I know that's a whole other ballpark. But are there any plans for expansion or getting you some help? You're on an island out there.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. I'm not sure. I know we're looking to hopefully upgrade some equipment. We've still got some really old stuff. It's kind of like almost caveman brewing is what I like to call it. But it's still functional for the most part. Sometimes it takes a little JB Weld and some duct tape and some bubble gum and some MacGyvering, but just making it happen, just milking it for all it's worth and trying to keep things rolling. And sometimes you get some pretty decent beers out of it, and sometimes you're like, well, this one could be a little bit better, but for next time to kind of manipulate it a little bit easier or better, I should say, next time. But hopefully, yeah, we can get some good newer stuff and be a little bit easier to operate being one person. But I'm not complaining too much, I guess.
Well, not only have you been a fantastic guest, but you're a fantastic brewer as well. I am not
you.
a fan of fruits or sours, and
Yeah.
I loved your beer.
Oh, thank you.
And
That means a lot.
I'm not kissing your ass. I would let you know. I think it's disrespectful to be dishonest with people, and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
one really there's something different about it. and
Yeah.
maybe it's just my bias, or maybe it's just a really great beer.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully it's both.
I really appreciate you taking some time to sit down with us tonight.
Absolutely.
I know your time here in Denver is limited. You've got
Yeah.
beers to drink. You got things to check on, people to see.
Yeah.
One thing we didn't talk about is that we'll take this segment, we'll turn it into fully polished, produced episode. We'll reach out when that's ready, and
Cool.
we'll talk about it. And honestly, Sean, I mean, this has been great. We'd really like to follow up and maybe have another conversation
Yeah,
with you
definitely.
when you're ready too. And
Yeah, come on down to Manhattan sometime. And
well, it's funny that you say that. Again, old guy here. My son is starting at K-State next fall.
there you
so
go. Now you got all the reason in the world to go out there.
We'll be there next month to
Heck
do
yeah.
a campus tour and whatnot. So I am definitely going to make a point to stop by
yeah.
the brewery.
Yeah, we should try to plan we could do another one of these in the restaurant. We've got a nice window in the early afternoon where the lunch rush ends, and we're kind of quiet for another hour or so, and that'd be cool.
Oh my God, dude,
Yeah.
that's bringing it full circle for
yeah,
me.
that'd be awesome. Yeah, first beer, and then you could have a podcast in our tap room there.
Right on. Well, thanks again, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
taking my coaster with me, though.
Take as many as you want, man.
Oh, I brought this one with me. It's going back with me, though.
Thanks so much, man.
Thank you,
That was
man.
wonderful, dude.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Great job.
That was fun. A little nervous, but it's fine. It's
All right.
Now these
Sounded
guys are in
great.
the hot seat. Just remember to talk low. I heard the dudes like it. That's what they say, at least.
Oh, gentlemen, take care.
Actually, I might stand back up for a second.
We're only 60 seconds ahead of schedule.
That's better than 60 seconds behind. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
You want to throw the headphones on?
Sure.
Get a feel for where you at. We've already noticed that people have been able to sit back from the mics a lot further than we can, and it's working. It's not usually the case.
Nice.
I'm gonna get this wrong. Jordan?
No, you got it right.
And it's
Peter.
Peter. Peter Bob.
Mm-hmm.
You are the owner of Bismarck Brewing.
Correct.
And Jordan, you are also an owner and a brewer. Are you guys both brewers?
Yep, I'm the brewmaster, and he does more of the business side, but it'll kind of overlaps between the two for both of us. So
The first thing I'm going to promise you is that the rest of this conversation is be better than that introduction. Especially once Eric gets his cans on.
Oh, don't hype me up that much.
It's Saturday. You guys hanging in there?
getting by.
Yeah.
You guys both look tired, and don't take that as a. Please don't take that as an insult. But I saw you guys last night, and we talked for a little bit, and you guys had a little bit of energy. Now you guys, this is the home stretch, right?
Oh yeah, the first session wasn't so bad, but coming back after eating and everything was. It's kind of a little rough.
Based on our experience, this is the rowdy session, so I'm glad you guys are getting a little 20-minute break to come talk to us because we've been out on the floor on Saturday the past couple years, and yeah, it's been a little bit out of control. Not that it wasn't last night, though. I saw a lot of shenanigans, if you will, going on yesterday. Did you guys have a good day yesterday?
Yeah, we had a great day.
Yeah, great show. And a lot of people liked our beer, so it was promising.
Yeah, good feedback.
You guys, I think, were actually the first of the breweries that I reached out to confirm that you'd be able to sit down and talk with us. So the first thing I want to do is thank you for your time because I know this is crazy and you've
Oh,
got
yeah,
lots
absolutely.
of things to do.
Mm-hmm.
Two things I want to point out. Your logo is far and away the best one I've seen in all of GABF.
Thank you.
It's clever. It's catchy. I like that. I also noticed that you guys are the only brewery representing North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah. We have 23, I believe, now in the state total. We have 7 in Bismarck, Mandan, and most of them are either kind of new or they're expanding. So, yeah, we're the only guys this year.
And how many times have you guys been to the Great American Beer Festival in the past?
Never. This is our first year.
First year,
Haven't
nice.
even come to hang out before, so.
And that's, first of all, welcome to Denver if you've never been here before, and welcome to the Great American Beer Festival. That's also awesome that that we're talking to you guys on your first go around here. So was it worth it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We can't wait to come back.
You guys brought, let's see, I've got a list here. You guys brought 5 beers to the festival this year?
We did.
And what first of all, let's talk about those and what went into the decision-making process as to what you decided to bring, and tell us a little bit more about those beers.
So we brought those 5. 4 of the ones we're pouring were the 4 that we submitted for judging as well. So we just decided to pour those, and then we added our hazy IPA along with it. The other 4 were kind of just beers we had around that we've seen in the past that didn't have a lot of entries, so we thought it might be something interesting to kind of, give somebody something different to look at, and that's gone over pretty well. I mean, a couple of the categories when we were at the awards this morning, they had a few more entries than they did in the previous years, so which was good to see.
You did some research into the number of beers in each category. It kind of blew me away how many categories there were this year.
Absolutely. Yeah, we kind of already, a lot of our tap list in general is kind of, doesn't stray too far from the norm yet. We're kind of trying to start out simple and kind of nail the basics and do those well before we start growing and messing around with stuff that we've never really done before, because pretty much all of our recipes were developed on a homebrew scale and scaled up, and we've really had no issues with that. So
you guys serve these on tap back home?
yep, absolutely. Yeah, our Pilsner that we have, our Wit, and our Daisy, those are all year-rounds, along with Liquid Lunch as well. The Knock Malls are only seasonal that we brought.
Great names, by the way.
Thank you.
The two that I highlight, because I know Eric and I both had a favorite, were the Belgian Wit and the is it the Knockmal? That is
Yep,
the
that's
red.
our Maibach, yep.
Red. Oh, it's the Maibach.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, our Wit's our biggest seller in our tap room, and we distribute a lot of it around town too. It's nice, easy beer. We actually have a cream ale that we came out with a couple months ago, and that one's a better seller now, but they're kind of both our top two. And then Liquid Lunch, our Scotch ale, is our third biggest seller. So we kind of want to bring some of the stuff that we think we do well and that seem to sell well. So try to give into some hands of people that won't see our tap room. Hope maybe they will someday, hopefully.
Are you guys both from North Dakota?
I'm originally from North Dakota, but yeah, born and raised there, I guess. So it's been craft beer scene has been lacking there, so I'm glad we finally got it going. Yeah.
Yeah, and I moved into Bismarck about 5 years ago, from Montana, where I grew up mostly, and a little bit in Colorado too. So I've kind of seen a little bit of the outside world in craft beer that way. So we're kind of trying to bring a little bit of that to North, or at least to Bismarck, hopefully. And it's kind of the ball's rolling now. So there's bigger breweries opening up and really expanding, and seeing a lot more customer base in town. So it's
Right
we're
on.
getting there.
You said you're up to 7 breweries in Bismarck?
Yeah.
Is that everyone kind of got that attitude, like, it wasn't here, and I need something good to drink, so I guess I'm going to have to do it myself?
Yeah, we've Laughing Sun Brewing opened in 2011, I believe, and they were kind of the front runner. They started out downtown in 3.5 barrel system on a pretty cool little brew pub, and they actually just right now are expanding to a 20 barrel system. So it's definitely growing a lot.
That in terms of what you've seen here walking around at Great American Beer Festival, have you guys had a chance to really experience that as a consumer? Have you had a chance to taste a lot of beer?
Yeah, we brought 2 bartenders with us from back home, and then my cousin who lives in Colorado Springs is actually pouring beer with us too. So we kind of let them take shifts, and then we'll go wander around, then we let them go, and just kind of alternate out. So we wanted to experience it too, along with not having to work the whole thing and do a little bit of both. So
Yeah, I think some people might forget that the brewers are also craft beer enthusiasts themselves, and
Right.
they like to taste the beer. Is there anything that's really stood out for you guys?
I'm blown away at the amount of
yeah,
people here and the amount of beers everybody brings, and yeah, you can get any kind of beer you want here, like, in 30 of them probably. Like, you could spend a whole day just working on barrel aged stuff, or like IPAs or whatever you want. Like,
Yeah, pick a style and work,
spend the whole
work
day
through
on
a
that.
tour.
Yeah.
yeah. There's so many beers we really can't get our hands on quite yet in North Dakota. That's grown a lot over the last 2 years or so. Distribution's grown into North Dakota, but there's a lot of stuff here, we don't see unless we travel out of state. So it's, really cool to see a lot of stuff that, we've never even heard of.
Do you find that you guys are able to, I know this is your first year here, but take some influence from everything that you've gotten to taste over the past couple days and maybe take that back and use that for maybe a new recipe?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we tried most of the medal winners in the categories that we submitted to kind of see what it was that, that made those beers end up with medals. So that was kind of, we're definitely learning. We're getting feedback from people directly too. So it's been a very valuable experience for us.
I'll tell you that wit, you guys absolutely nailed it. That's right up my alley. That's my style of beer. And when I had it last night, I think I went back for seconds, maybe even thirds. I have to kind of spread it out a little bit, but it was absolutely delicious. So wonderful job with that beer, guys. I really appreciate it. It was super tasty.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Can you tell us a little bit about the months leading up to Great American Beer Festival? When did you guys make the decision to do that? Picking the beers that you were going to bring, brewing all that beer.
Most of the beers we were already brewing. Knockmall or Maibach, we had that going at the time when we submitted our application. And that was kind of when we got the email. That's kind of when we were like, well, should we? Let's do it.
Yeah, we applied not knowing if we would get a booth or not, and
Yeah,
we got selected. So we made it happen, I guess. So
Yeah, and just we pretty much had all the beers ready to go and just bottled some up, sent down for competition, and transferred to some MicroStar kegs for the festival beers. And yeah, it was really relatively pretty simple.
Now, did you guys transport all your own stuff here, or do you have a guild that was able to do that for you?
We were the only ones coming down, so yeah. Otherwise we probably could have collaborated with other breweries to get our beer here. But one other brewery did bring beers for judging, but they just drove them straight down here, and we shipped our festival beers, and then we drove our judging beers, and then we brought the festival beers over to Summit, and they drove them down. So that wasn't too bad. It was relatively simple. I mean, we didn't quite get our tags in time, so some of our kegs are a little bit mislabeled at the moment, but we're figuring that out as we go.
Does that mean they're missing?
No, they're there. They're just the wrong label on them. So when we
Oh.
asked them to bring us a new one, it's, oh, no, that's...
yeah, like we asked for another wit, and it's coming out dark. We're like, that's probably not. It's the liquid lunch. Yeah, it's Scotch ale. It's not the wit. So we figured it all out.
I'm going to apologize in advance because I feel like I've already asked you this question, but maybe I just don't remember the answer. What has been the response to your beers been like? And there has been the one that's obviously been a crowd favorite this year.
It's hard to say. I mean, the response overall, I mean, has been really great. We get great feedback, and a lot of people come back for more, and we have a decent amount of foot traffic coming by. So, but as far as the favorite, I have to say either Daisy or our Knockmall. Those two are pouring pretty well.
Scotch ale's doing pretty well as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're really all kind of across the board, running out right about the same time, it seems. So
You guys going to have enough to last through the Saturday session?
should.
I think we should. Yeah.
Has anyone warned you about tonight?
Yeah, quite a few people
Okay,
actually.
good. I didn't want to send you back upstairs ill-prepared, but yeah, it's going to get a little crazy.
Oh well, the horror stories we've heard of years past till 2 a.m. and puke all over the floor. So I'm kind of glad that they're shutting it down at 10 o'clock tonight. So
Yeah,
that way-
it will be like none too soon. When we found out we were doing this, because we had to apply, and they would only give us one session that we could do the podcast from. We found out we were doing Saturday night, and I thought, well, we know they're going to be tired because it's been a long week, but we're going to get the benefit of all the experience that that they've had throughout the festival, and we get to hide out here in this nice quiet hallway,
Absolutely.
away from the hubbub. What are your guys' plans for the rest of the evening?
let our bartenders work, and we're gonna walk around and try some other beer probably.
Well, the last thing that I want to do is keep you from that. But one compulsory question I got to make sure I ask everyone: is there anything in particular that you want to talk about, pimp, shout out, anything about your brewery, about your beers, anything else?
Just come check us out if you're ever in Bismarck. We have a beautiful tap room, full restaurant attached, and you can see the brewery through the restaurant. And yeah, we'll be there to talk about beer with you 90% of the time. So
You guys have a restaurant?
yeah, there's a separate a restaurant that's attached, but it's owned separately. So,
Gotcha. A collaborative effort.
yes,
And,
absolutely.
and where in Bismarck are you guys located?
The north side of Bismarck, we're on Highway 83, just south of Tractor Supply.
And for the people that want to find you online, do you guys have an active social media presence?
Oh yeah, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all that stuff.
BismarckBrewing.com and
Yep.
Bismarck Brewing is I think that's all of our social media handles. So
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of stuff with Untapped. We do Untapped for Business, and we have a local badge too. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, we had pretty good success with that. So
That's I've noticed just as an Untapped user. I mean, we use it to kind of talk about the stuff that we're drinking, you know, just like everyone else does. When I saw them on the lanyard this year, I'm like, man, Untapped really they're big time now, aren't they?
oh, they've grown a lot. They call us all the time, and they're like, oh, you know, you should do this. You should. They talk to us on a local badge eventually, because like, oh, you guys get like 3 times as many check-ins as the average new brewery. And we were looking at it, and we're like, we do. So
Nice.
we decided to do local badge, and that's gone over pretty well, actually.
we have the digital menu board up on the wall, so it's got a live ticker on the bottom of who checked in. So
And-
it'll say like Cindy drank a knock mall, and like people like to see their little picture up on the wall. So
Yeah,
we get a lot more check-ins.
We've seen a
like
lot of
that,
people
too,
signing
so.
up, and you'll hear them talking around tables like, oh, what's this TV? What's that Untapped thing? And they're, oh, go on your phone, download it.
Have you found that technology is really changing the game quickly for you guys?
Oh, without a doubt. When we first opened, we kind of fell into the trap of like really obsessing over Untapped ratings. Like, oh, we should change this. This guy said it's bad. We should do. And after a while, we're like,
Are you
know
a gamer?
What? Yeah.
Okay. First of all, you're in great company. As soon as I heard you say that, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No.
but
Yeah, I mean, we kind of, like obsess over him, like, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Oh, it's like, you almost get personally offended, and then after a while, you're like, everybody has their opinion, whatever.
sure.
And the feedback's been, overwhelmingly positive, so you're always going to, you're not always going to please everybody, so that's kind of helped us kind of understand that, we make what we make, and we'll improve it as we see fit along the way, and we've kind of evolved every beer a little bit as we go. We've only been open 9 months, so
Oh, wow.
yeah, we're definitely very new, and we're just trying to put out a consistent product every time, and I feel like we've done a pretty good job of nailing that.
I kind of felt like that's one of the first questions I should have asked you guys is how long have you been doing this? But I just assumed it was for a while by the quality of your product, because it doesn't come off as something that's produced by a brewery that's only been around less than a year.
Thank you. Yeah, we get that a lot in the tap room too, that they're like, really? Since January? And yeah, I mean, we just spent a lot of time homebrewing, really just nailing the recipes we were going to do as year rounds, and the rest of it we've kind of come along with and just kind of used principles we learned at American Brewers Guild and, homebrew experience, and just kind of make it work. And we've had pretty good success so far. I mean, we haven't had a single one of our seasonals that we've made or one-offs that we've made that haven't really sold well. So, yeah,
Is it safe to say that we're going to see you guys back here next year?
I think so.
For sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
We're
I
definitely
know
flying,
you
but-
guys look tired, but it also looks like you guys have had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, well, we drove down here, so that doesn't help the tired factor either. So we're gonna fly next year. We'll be a little more sprightly.
how long is the trip from?
About 11 hours.
Okay, that's what I figured. Yeah, half a day basically.
Yeah, and it's kind of 2-lane roads in the middle of nowhere the whole way, so it's kind of a rough road. But we made it here, and we'll make it back tomorrow. So
I feel like we had the privilege of catching you guys at the beginning of what's going to be a long and illustrious career in craft brewing.
No doubt.
thank you.
Can we talk a little bit about what you guys were doing leading up to the opening 9 months ago?
When I moved to North Dakota originally, I was actually doing putting in fire sprinkler systems for a living, and started homebrew on the weekends. As a family, it was kind of a thing to do on the weekends and hang out and drink some beer, make some beer, and just do guy stuff, and it just kind of evolved from there to where it was going to be a big family business originally, and we were all going to go in together as a family and open a big family business. And the way North Dakota laws actually are, that's why our business is separate from the restaurant. It's got to be 2 separate restaurants in the same, or 2 separate businesses in the same building, because we have weird laws in North Dakota.
Yeah, we're the alcohol manufacturer, and they have like a full bar downstairs. They're an alcohol retailer. So once you if you're a manufacturer, you can't be a retailer in the state. The wholesalers think that we're gonna cut them out by our little tap room area. So
Yeah, so that's why we have kind of an odd setup from. I know a lot of places still sometimes do that, where they'll have, kind of two separate businesses, but they can ring it up on the same tab sometimes or whatever. We have to be completely separate, and it's kind of throwing people for a loop a little bit. They haven't seen that in North Dakota yet, but when we explain them the law, by and large, the reception hasn't been too bad. We've had a few people cuss us out for it, but what can you do?
Yeah, what can you do? Especially when, it's the government really that's making it difficult. That's one thing I think we've learned doing this is that from national down to municipal, they're not making it easy to get a craft
absolutely.
brewery off the ground.
And I just got elected to our State Brewers Guild Board of Directors. So
Congratulations.
Nice.
We're actually actively trying, and they have been for years, to kind of fix some of this stuff. And they essentially paved the way for breweries in general. It was pretty tough 7-8 years ago for a brewery in North Dakota to even open at all and brew. So they've come a long way, and will hopefully go a lot farther.
Was there a magic beer in your home brewing process where you knew, like, this is the one that convinced me I need to get into doing this professionally?
Yeah, for me it was, we have a beer called Riot Punch. That's a 8.2% rye IPA, and it was the first recipe I ever made by myself. I just winged it, like, came out perfect, and it's still one of my favorite beers. I mean, and even when it doesn't always sell well, it's kind of like that one and the Pilsner are kind of my babies. So, and it's just, it was kind of near and dear to my heart because it was the first one that was like, maybe I can make beer that doesn't come out of a kit,
And that one, you said that one is still one that you serve on tap?
Yeah, we're kind of doing this sort of it was a summer and fall seasonal sort of, and when we're out of it, we'll brew again probably next year, but it's a pretty expensive beer to make. So it's pretty hoppy, and it's got a pretty hefty grain bill, so we can't really sell it to where we can afford to make it year round.
Gotcha. Well,
I was going to say real quick, I know we have to wrap, but I know you guys can't ship your beer to me out of state, but can I buy a shirt?
Absolutely.
we
Okay.
can make that happen.
Yeah, I really want one. I'm a big T-shirt guy. I collect them, and when I saw your logo last night, I turned to Doug and I said, "Well, they win the logo contest, so I don't even have to go anywhere else."
Yeah, we get a lot of recognition for that. People will stop us on the street, even in Bismarck, where they see it all the time. And yeah, it's been a big thing for brand awareness for us. We really are happy with that.
It's killer, and even if you guys decide to change it, I think still starting with that, I mean, it's just it just stands out, and that's what you want a logo to do.
And it's simple. That's what we like about it. It's really simple.
you guys doing any merchandising with your logo?
Oh, absolutely. We do stickers. We have 3 or 4 different hats. We do women's and men's shirts and all that
T-shirts,
kind of
tank
stuff.
tops, sweatshirts.
So it'll be really easy for us to find one online for Eric here.
Oh yeah, we'll take care of you.
Cool, yeah, because I'd love to buy one off you guys. I would rock it, and not only because I think you guys are awesome for sitting down with us today, but I like to spread the signal. And if people go to North Dakota, I want them to know, hey, go to Bismarck Brewing, man. They've got try the wit. It's the first thing I'll tell them. But every beer I tried from you guys yesterday was absolutely excellent. I'm in shock that this is your first beer fest. I'm in shock you guys have only been doing this for 9 months. I would like to sit down with you guys in another year just because I know how things work, and I know you guys are going to be in a completely different place a year from now, and you're going to say, "Oh man,
sure hope so.
Yeah, well, you just have to keep doing it. And I'm really glad you guys decided to come out, and I hope you got everything out of the festival that you wanted to.
We did, absolutely. We learned a lot. We had a lot of fun. I mean, yeah, we can't wait to come back year after year. So
Please keep doing what you're doing because you're
Yes.
really good at it.
thank you very much.
Now go drink some beer.
We will.
All right, thank you.
Thank you guys so much. So that wasn't too bad, right?
No.
Not at all.
Thank you so much. Seriously, you guys are wonderful, man. That was,
Happy to do it.
No, it was great. You guys had some great stories. And yeah, please, like Doug said, please keep it up, man. I figured you guys have been doing this for 10 to 20 years, not 9 months.
Thank you.
Not that you look that old.
No, not at all. We're the old guys.
sometimes with the white hair.
But no.
I'm only 30, but I look a lot older.
I don't think so. I think that's where I would have ballparked you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys, thank you. The beer is
Thank you, guys.
delicious. It was absolutely delicious. Loved all of it.
Yeah, come find us next year. We'll do another one.
We'll do that.
We'll be here.
We'll polish this up into an episode and let you guys know when it's ready. So you can do whatever you want with it. But we'll be publishing it as it's like a standalone. We're streaming everything together right now, but we'll make everyone look
Get
clean
your
it up.
own,
and-
yeah,
Perfect.
own episode and everything. So that'd be sweet, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Take care.
I really like that these have all been different, and I hope that that trend continues.
Oh yeah. Those guys were adorable.
Weren't they? They were awesome.
Yes. But tired. And I made a point not to point out their height on either one of them because Connor tells me all the time, because he's 6'5", that tall people hate being reminded constantly that they're tall. So thank you, Connor, for the life lesson.
Yeah, that's actually a lesson I learned from Chris DeWitt.
And that is a tall motherfucker.
Yes, without a doubt. So you said our 7:30 is a maybe, huh?
Was that the one that Nikki was
That's
messaging us about?
yes.
Okay. So, let's see. Let us see. We were scheduled to talk with
Melvin Brewing.
Travis from Melvin Brewing. But we weren't able to stop by and confirm last night, so it wouldn't surprise me. Oh, actually, you know what? I think they're headed this way right now.
Awesome. I've got a full glass.
Guys, just in time.
Definitely taste water.
Oh, sure.
Wherever you're comfortable, man.
I like blue.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
I'm okay with water. Thanks. Am I good distance from the mic or?
We'll throw our headphones on and you'll be able to tell pretty quickly.
Okay.
We usually sit with our faces right up against them, but we've had phenomenal success. Maybe it's the acoustics of the room.
Yeah.
People have been able to sit back a couple feet and it still sounds
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
But you'll be able to tell when you put the headphones on.
All right.
Hi,
Yeah.
Doug.
Travis.
Travis, nice to meet you. Travis, I'm Eric.
Nice to meet you. I'm starting to lose my voice a bit after the week.
We're running into that a lot. Yeah, our first guest tonight was very hoarse, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
It's
I've
loud
been-"
in there, you
It
know.
is. It's super loud.
Yeah. So.
You wanna throw those on?
Yep.
I'll adjust mine because I was messing with it. Oh, my bad.
There you are.
It's okay.
Yeah, not a lot of information in there. I usually list out the beers from all the different breweries that we've talked to tonight. I put a list of their beers in there, but the Melvin list is so damn long.
It's a little long.
I didn't think it was worth it. And as I'm sure you know, the Melvin beers are one that our listeners are pretty familiar with. Even
Nice.
down here in Denver, it's rare that I think I can walk into a well-stocked liquor store and not see one of your beers there. We're introducing Travis. What's your last name?
Travis Cook,
Travis Cook from
Melvin Brewing.
Melvin Brewing, and that's in Alpine, Wyoming?
Yes, yeah. So we started up in Jackson Hole area, Wyoming, right downtown in a small brew pub. And then in 2016, we basically completed a production facility in Alpine, which is about 45 minutes south of Jackson.
You guys kind of hit the scene, at least again here in Colorado. It seemed like one day I'd never heard of you. The next day there was one beer on the shelf, and then next month there was 6 beers on the shelf.
Yeah, it's crazy to think it was really only 2.5 years ago. It seems like it's been forever, you know. But I think we hit the market at the right time, and we were bringing some unique IPAs that had some success at the beer fest, and I think the branding, the artwork, everything just kind of spoke to people a little bit with it. So yeah, Colorado's actually become our #1 market up to this point. So
You're welcome.
yeah, Wyoming, there's just not a lot of people there. We get tons of support in Wyoming, and we love all the locals, and they give it, like I said, they give us tons of support. Just turns out it's the least populated state in the union.
Is there a craft brew scene in Wyoming besides what you guys are doing?
There's a growing craft beer scene for sure. Snake River was definitely the first, I would say, from Wyoming to make some waves, and they're out of Jackson as well, so they definitely laid some of the foundation. Big Sky Brewing in Montana, also not very far away, so they kind of brought some of the craft beer scene 20 years ago-ish, to the table, but it was very slow developing, and now you're starting to see more places start to do some things in the little towns that dotted throughout Wyoming, which are usually spread out pretty far apart. So
I actually, before I did research, I assumed you guys were a Colorado brewery because of how much Melvin I see at every single liquor store that I go to. So how do you said 2.5 years? How do you go how do you go that far in 2.5 years? You're blowing my mind with that. I thought you guys had been around for a decade.
No, I mean, we started the brew pub in 2010 when we really first started brewing beer, so about 8 years. But we were always brewing on a 3-barrel system. It was only available at the brew pub in Jackson. And then, like I said, at the end of 2015, we finished our production facility, and we scaled things up from 3 barrels to a 30-barrel brew system. So pretty huge jump there production-wise. And so we narrowed in on Idaho, Washington, and Colorado as kind of the 3 markets closest to us that made the most sense to start shipping some beer to. And then we've slowly added a couple others as well. So.
And you've been there from the beginning, it sounds like.
Yeah, I was there right as we kind of scaled things up. I knew the founder, Jeremy, from a few years prior when it was still just the brew pub. And as he was looking to grow it and build more of a sales and marketing team, I was kind of the first hire. So.
And which of those beers in that long list do we get to thank you for?
Name-wise or brew-wise?
Both.
I can't take any credit for the brewing, unfortunately. But yeah, a lot of the can copy and the names of the beers, things like that, I've had a lot of hand in some of that. So.
Which, like you pointed out, I mean, it's absolutely part of what I would consider makes you guys unique, and probably has a lot to do with why it's flying on the shelves. You guys bring a really unique presence to GABF. I've been coming for a few years, and it seems like it gets a little, like the level gets raised every year. I think last year you guys were outside.
Yes.
In the bus, and now the bus has magically appeared inside the festival hall.
Yeah. So the bus has been a unique part of Melvin from the beginning. Like our founder Jeremy kind of has this love of unique vehicles, I would say, and so he picked it up in Southern California. Actually, it was a Border Patrol vehicle, and got it in an auction, and kind of decked it out the way he wanted to. Built some taps into the side of it, and it became this thing in Jackson. We would take it in parades and things like that, and pretty much everywhere we go, it just brought a smile to people's face. And that's really what we're trying to do as a brewery, is just give people a fun experience. There's so many breweries out there, and there's so many great beers out there. A lot of times people need a reason to connect to something, and we don't want to be known as we take pride in our beers, and we feel that they're world-class beers, but we're not trying to take it too seriously. We're not trying to be pretentious with it. We just want to have a good time and give people an experience that they'll remember and take home the next time. So it was actually 2016 we decided to get the bus and put some speakers up on top, and we rolled around the convention center shooting off some t-shirt guns, and that kind of created a buzz of its own. And the following year we just approached the Brewers Association, and we said, I know there's end caps, like, can we just make the bus an end cap?
And apparently they said yes.
Yeah, they were great, and they were happy to oblige, and it was kind of a work in progress to see how it would fit, and we've tweaked things slightly this year, but it's kind of back to the same. So
the whole fest is a giant party, but when I walked in last night, there was the Melvin party. I mean, you guys had a DJ.
Yes.
You guys had girls twerking around that you didn't hire. They just were happy to do it because that's how big of a show you guys had going on. How good does that feel as a brewer to know that, like, there was no doubt where you guys were last night? In fact, we didn't have to look at the map. We looked at the map to find our other breweries. We're like, oh, Melvin is right there.
Yeah, you heard the bass.
We did.
And the elephant playing the saxophone.
Well, like I said, from the beginning, being in Jackson is a pretty unique place, and it's sort of a stuffy town in some regards, and we always wanted to sort of be the fun place where service industry people and ski bums and people had a place to go where they could kind of let loose and just have a good time and not spend too much money and sip wine with pinkies up, So we tried to bring a little different experience from the beginning, and hip-hop music's kind of always been a big part of the thing there, was just kind of the confidence, the attitude, just growing up on the music ourselves, growing up in the 80s and 90s, and so we kind of air towards the pre-2000 hip-hop, and and it always seems to resonate with people, and it always brings the party. So we've kind of continued that from the pub to everywhere we go, every event we do. We just, like I said, try to bring the fun.
I for one, loved walking up last night to Wu-Tang playing and getting a couple of beers. I also think all of the best hip-hop was before 2000s. You've got me sold on that.
Great. Yeah, I mean, we're firm. There's still great hip-hop coming out, and we still like some of the modern stuff as well, but we definitely air towards the early 90s hip-hop, and at the brew pub, too, we've always had Kung Fu on the TVs because we just thought it would be something different rather than walking into the same bar and seeing the same sports game over and over again. You come in and you're like, why are they playing 70s Kung Fu? Like, this is bizarre. And then, Kung Fu led into Wu-Tang with the hip-hop, and it all just kind of was a match made in heaven. So.
Now, I'm also a big 70s Kung Fu fan, so do you pick from a list of movies or kind of share with me some of your favorites?
We have a pretty large database. We have about 300 old school Kung Fu films that we can pull from and randomly stream on our TVs at the pubs. We're big Gordon Liu fans, so, it's kind of stereotypical, but Shaolin versus Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers, of course, where all that came from. Sonny Chiba, like Street Fighter.
Sister Street Fighter,
one
yeah.
of my favorites. The flying guillotine too. That one, I'm blanking on the exact title right now, but the flying guillotine is another one.
Oh yeah, no, it's and I like that meshing of, because beer is cool and beer will always be cool, but you add Kung Fu to that, you add some hip hop to that. I mean, then you have a party, and it seems like, going back to what you originally said, that's kind of your goal at Melvin, right? Is for everyone to be having a good time.
Right, and it's fun to watch. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of kind of hidden comedy in there, and just cheesiness overall. That's, when you're drunk, it's fun to watch, right?
Where are you guys at size-wise these days?
We did about 20,000 barrels last year, and we're about on pace to do 25 or 26 this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what about head count?
As far as employees, it's growing like every day. It's kind of hard to quantify sometimes with the different levels, but I would say 100 plus.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are growing quickly, and you've somehow managed to attract all of the fans of the Kung Fu and everything that you were just talking about. I was trying to piece through that together in my head. It's like the least populated state in the union, and yet all these people with these specific interests all happen to work in the same place.
Well, and it's funny to touch on what you've said a little before that. I think is kind of cool to point out. When we built the production facility in Alpine, 40 minutes down the road from Jackson, we actually received a loan from the town of Alpine. It was one of the least populated, one of the worst employment numbers of anywhere in the area, and they were looking for businesses to come to the town to create jobs. So they essentially gave us an interest-free loan, which is nice.
Yeah.
We have to pay it back over 5 years, and then we had to create 35 jobs in 5 years, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're a town of 700 people, it's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Well, we've already created 55 plus jobs in about 2.5 years. So.
Win-win.
Yeah.
You're right. That is a great story.
Yeah. So, it's cool to kind of, bring something fun to the town as well.
And plus, I mean, what you guys are putting into the town, I imagine you're seeing coming back to the brewery.
Yeah.
It's all cyclical, correct?
Yeah, and we're like sort of creating a destination place for people. It's a gorgeous place surrounded by mountains. The Snake River feeds the Palisade Reservoir right there. There's all types of outdoor activities everywhere, and just giving people a little extra reason to go if they're beer fans. And we're starting to see that more and more, where we get people from around the country that literally came to that area to check out our brewery.
Well, you're making me want a road trip. How far is the trip from here? I'd love to
It's
sit
great.
down and watch some kung fu movies with
Yeah,
you.
it's about an 8.5-hour drive.
Okay, that's not horrible.
It's doable for sure.
I can get you there in 7.
Yeah, there you go. Frontier's been doing really cheap flights from Denver to Jackson recently too, on like Tuesdays and Thursdays. FYI.
Oh, God, it's so gorgeous up there too. You're the 4th brewer that we've talked to tonight. You're also the 4th person to use the word destination when it comes to what you're trying to create. It seems like that's a really big deal to the community as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it kind of all plays into the same idea. It's like with more and more breweries out there, you kind of have to create your identity and give people a reason to come and check you out. And especially when you're in the middle of nowhere, you have to give people a reason to come. So, we've tried to do that with the quality of the beers and just the overall experience.
Have I asked you about what you're wearing? Because I know this is an audio podcast.
Yeah,
If
you
you
can't
didn't, I was about to. So
So this is the 2x4 onesie. We have our double IPA 2x4 was one of the first beers that kind of put us on the map. It won the gold medal in 2012 at Great American Beer Fest for Imperial IPA.
Phenomenal beer.
And so each one of our beers kind of has a character that correlates to the beer. So he's made out of 2x4s, and he has the tool belts and the saw. And at some point, we just thought it would be fun to get onesies printed with it, and it definitely draws some looks, that's for sure. And yeah,
So
that's kind of become part of Beer Fest too, is like the random costumes, right? So
it really has, like over the last 2 years in particular, it's really ramped up.
Yeah.
I think we might be able to credit or blame Melvin for
maybe
that to some extent.
Credit.
There were definitely people wearing some bizarre costumes before us, I would say. But yeah, we thought it'd be funny to get some onesies. Another fun fact of that, we wanted to get like 20 printed for our crew, and they said the minimum order was 200. So we had to kind of bite the bullet and order 200. So they are available on our website.
Oh, nice. Well, that was actually going to be my next question, is like for those people out there who want to cosplay as one of your beer artwork characters, they can live their dream.
Right. It's very comfortable too.
you guys have come a long way in a short amount of time. I'm wondering if you could maybe give me a peek behind the curtain. What's coming up for Melvin? I can see the wheels turning over there, man. You've got tons of ideas you haven't implemented yet. Can you share any of those with us?
Yeah, I mean, we're beer lovers, you know, from the get-go, and we all love different styles of beer, and we like experimenting and executing all different forms of beer. We were definitely known for IPA and hop-forward beers when we hit the market, so we definitely ran with that pretty hard. And you know, we have Hubert, our Hoppy Pale Ale, Melvin IPA, 2x4 Double IPA. We released a series of 6 Imperial IPAs that we rotate throughout the year. We were pouring Chuck Morris and Asterisk here this week. Those are two of the ones that we rotate through. So we've obviously been very hop forward. We're eventually going to branch out a little bit from that. We've started to do some barrel aging, particularly stouts and quads, barley wines, bigger styles like that. We're pouring our port barrel-aged Ruckus this weekend, which is a imperial stout that we did in port barrels for about a year. So, you know, start to do a little more of the barrel-aged stuff, as well as branching out. We have some plans in the works that aren't finalized yet to build a sour facility as well, where we would do some barrel-aged sours, but that would be a whole nother facility from our current production facility. So, you know, continue to diversify and continue to try to give some people some new beers to check out and give them something to just refresh them about Melvin, you know.
Anything else you want to pimp or plug or shout out?
Not necessarily, no. The week's almost over at this point, so all our events are done, or else I would be plugging those. But we had a great time with them, so yeah, I'm happy.
Really glad to see you guys here at the festival again this year. Really glad that you were able to sit down and talk with us. I think the impact that your brewery's had, not only on the Denver beer scene, the Colorado beer scene, but on the festival in general is amazing. Almost as amazing as the impact that you're having in Alpine with the jobs. That's awesome, and I just wanted to thank you for all of that.
Well, I really appreciate it. Really appreciate you guys having us on, and always a pleasure to talk beer.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get this all cut up.
Okay.
And sent to you guys. I'll put it into, and we'll release it too as a standalone episode. We're live right now, but yeah, this will all get produced and we'll give it to you guys.
Okay.
Because yeah, no, at least we can do to thank you for your time today. And dude, yeah, the onesie, man. I mean, come on.
I said if you want one, they're on the website. They're about $100.
Are they really?
They're not cheap.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Thank you so much.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Seriously,
Yeah,
man.
nice to meet you. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Take care.
Yeah.
Love your beer.
Right on. Appreciate it.
What was the last beer that you mentioned that it was just being poured beer? It was one of the
Port barrel aged Ruckus. So Ruckus is a Russian Imperial Stout that we do, and then we put it in port barrels for about a year. And we do some in whiskey barrels. We've done it in cognac, done it in different barrels. So.
That's the one I should have drank last night. You guys out of it yet?
I think it's
or-
gone.
I was afraid to ask that question next, but
We had a blood orange pale ale on too that we don't typically do, and that might still be going. It was going when I came in.
I had it yesterday.
you didn't tell me about that one, man.
It's like beer mimosa.
I had 100 beers yesterday, dude.
Yeah, he's like,
I had to, yeah. I wanted to try stuff from people that were coming on the show.
No, I didn't mention it either, but like I said, we've always loved Wu-Tang, and we've gotten to the point where we've now done 2 shows with members of the Wu-Tang Clan.
Nice.
So,
Well, that's awesome.
So it's like childhood dreams have like come true, where we're like, we actually like got them to do stuff for us. So we did that Wednesday at the Summit Music Hall. It was Melvin Brewing presents Jizza, Raekwon, Killer Priest.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild. Dude. We had a banner
Dude, we
behind
need
the
to get into
stage.
beer so we can do that.
Yeah, we literally had a Melvin banner like above them on the stage as they were performing and stuff. It was pretty wild.
That is really cool.
We have the beer Killer Bees, our blonde oak honey, and
Right.
Oh, yeah.
we were kind of like, I wonder if they're gonna have a problem with this. And they were just kind of like, oh, cool, Killer Bees, I like it. Like, all right.
That's a great beer. Yeah.
So, yeah, fun stuff.
Right on. Well,
Right
thanks
on.
again.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
Got to hit the restroom. Who do we have up next?
Riverwatch.
Is there like restroom right around here?
Yeah, there's one right there, man.
So before I go up into the river,
Take advantage of the no line, clean.
especially with this
It's on your right.
Where did you go off of that spot down there that I had you earlier today?
Yeah, I need to hit the head too. Do you want to go first? You can. Okay. We actually have 5 minutes at least, so.
Do we?
Yeah, because we have them at 8. Green Flash is, or no, Riverwatch is 8.
Watch is 8.
The one I can't think of the name of is 8:30, and then Green Flash is 9. Tumble Root. Yeah, so we're gonna take a short break here. We'll leave the mics on, but
I can play some smooth jams.
can you? Not if it's copyrighted. You can't play it.
That's what I was thinking. Like,
Yeah.
I can. But
Hey, what's going on?
How are you?
Doing good. Everyone is so tired today.
I know. They're like kind of still hungover, and 2 sessions just like really drags it out of you, man.
It's Anne, right?
Yeah, Ann.
I'm Doug.
Hey, Doug. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, Eric.
Nice to
Cheers.
meet you. Cheers. We're gonna take like 5, and
Yeah.
then we're ready to go.
Yeah,
Is that
no
cool?
worries, yeah.
All right.
I realized they closed the entrance, the exit off by my, so I was like, oh shit, I gotta go all the way through the fest, just like gotta run.
Did you talk to Nikki?
She came by when I was gone,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure she wasn't looking for you.
Yeah, so I was doing some last second like swag shopping when she like ran my R's, and so my mom was like, she's somewhere. But I was like, you gave me directions. You're like 300s. I was like, I can figure it out. I'm not a complete dunce.
Yeah, no, we decided to put the table outside because we didn't figure it would find us in that room.
It's also really small.
Yeah.
Considering there's a lot more media here than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be a lot more comfortable here. I'll be right back.
She just made sure that no one would have this like knot in my calf, and I don't know how, and I don't know how to make it go away.
Is it from standing up?
It's only one calf. It doesn't make
Oh,
any sense.
yeah,
Like,
should leave it on one leg.
I guess, yeah, maybe, but like, yeah, it's like super odd. So I've been like going up to like random walls. I mean, you think that anyways normally, so I guess it's no different, but
In a couple hours, you'll look completely normal around here. So,
yeah.
you guys had a good fest.
Yeah, it's been good.
Is this the first time you guys have come out here?
This is the first time we poured.
Okay.
So like I was out here last year, getting to lay of the land, kind
Okay.
of see how it, how it's run. See, come in blind, you're just gonna make mistakes. So like the worst thing that we forgot was some extra decorations and everything. Like, no real issues.
Yeah, lessons learned. Then.
Yeah. And like I was able to go to like Target and pick up stuff really fast and everything, so it wasn't a big deal.
Okay.
So yeah, it was good. It's been fun. I mean, it's nice to have like, particularly from Georgia, like, the craft beer scene, particularly in Augusta, is still growing and still maturing and everything. So
I'm going to ask you about that. So have no doubt about that. Because I left in 1894.
Uh-huh.
I have been back to visit once, but my parents moved, so it's not home anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious of what the scene. Sorry.
I'm
Nikki.
sorry. I know we didn't run all over the fest. My mom told me you came by, and I was like, I can figure out what 300s are. Hi, Ann, nice to meet you.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. I'm glad that you actually found your way down here. That was the only reason why I wanted to.
Yeah, I was doing some last second shopping and everything when you came by, so.
Really appreciate you making some time for
Oh
us.
no, this is great. I took the earliest shift today so that I can, like, this is the last thing I have to do. So I was just like, ooh, I get to leave early. Have fun, everybody. I did 2 hours all on my own at the booth. I'm out. I wasn't bad. I had really good volunteers, so like it really helps when you're like, they're super. I mean, all the volunteers are so great, and like they're so passionate about it and everything. So like you don't have to do anything besides like smile. So
You are not the first person I've heard that from. It seems like they've been getting a lot of compliments.
they are really, really top notch. I've been very impressed. Like I've had good volunteers before at like other beer fests and everything, but I mean these guys are like in a class of their own. They care. It's really nice. They want to try everything. They want to learn about the breweries. They love talking to us and everything. It's really nice.
That is really cool. That's that I imagine that probably makes a pretty big difference. You know, one thing I noticed, the media are the only badges where they actually are putting the names on them. I wonder if that.
The judges also.
Oh, the judges.
Yeah, the judges are also. Because you both have the same colored lanyards too. The judges are also blue lanyards.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I'm friends with a couple of the judges, so.
That's
Yeah.
that actually explains so much. Now that I
Yeah.
think back through last night, that makes like the one guy that was like, you have to try this one, and then this one, and I need to know what you think about it right now.
He was a brewer, wasn't he?
He was.
I had
Might have thought we were judges.
Yeah, I had a couple of judges come by, and like we didn't medal this year, but we had a couple of them go, "This is a really good beer," and I was just like, I don't care anymore. I got one judge to say I make good beer. I'm done. It's like I'm out. Success. Done. Yeah, they were. Yeah, all the judges and like the beer drinkers were really impressed with our saison, and like everybody else was like, "Hippie's just a side door."
That was my favorite. So.
It's a good beer. Cheers to it. Ooh. Alrighty. Looks so cool. I have a small head.
Thank you, baby.
It's okay. I have a big one, so we'll even each other out.
I'm gonna fill my water glass right quick.
You do that.
Some?
Yeah. Get a little in that. Maybe glass.
You good, Eric?
I am. Thank you very much. You got to let me do this intro, right?
Dude, I'm just gonna sit back.
I don't know if you could tell last night how excited I was that you said yes, but I was super stoked. And the reason why is Doug and I really wanted to get breweries that weren't from Colorado, because we both live here now. He was able to find a brewery from his college town. And I thought for sure there would be a brewery from my college town, which is Athens, Georgia. There wasn't, but then I was looking through the list and I was like, Riverwatch Brewery. I was like, a brewery named after the road I used to drive. I used to cruise down through my hometown of Augusta, Georgia. So I have from Riverwatch Brewery and Sloan. You are the brewer and owner, correct?
Yep, I'm one of the brewers and one of the owners.
And I'm so happy to have you here because when I left Augusta in 1994, I don't even know if they had a bar.
I think they had some bars. I don't know if you'd want to walk into them, but
Now, are you guys downtown?
we are in the downtown area, but kind of outside. So when we opened up, the zoning laws required us to be in light industrial zones. So we are just kind of outside the downtown area by about a mile. So it's close enough, but yeah, it's still technically, we're in a warehouse. So
Are you originally from Augusta?
no, I am an Army brat. So my mom is our head brewer, and she's a retired Army colonel, actually. So grew up all across the country, all across the world, and she settled into Augusta to open up the brewery, and I came along to do beer, and it's been really fun.
So you have something in common with both of us. We are also both Army brats. That is
Excellent.
how I ended up in Augusta. Doug never had the privilege of moving there. But what was your favorite base growing up that you lived at, or your favorite state that you lived in?
So my favorite base was actually probably Fort Irwin, California, and that was mostly because I kind of got to run a little feral as a child. Like we just would like run across the desert and just like had like little gangs and everything. But I spent almost 4 years as a kid in Japan, and I love Japan. It's my second home as far as I'm concerned.
That's awesome. We got stuck in El Paso, Texas, so it sounds
Oh.
like you had a much better.
Yeah, that sounds super fun.
It was that El Paso and Augusta both in common the terrible weather, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's really hot. It's been really nice to be in Denver where it's not humid, at least. It's still like the sun's out and there's blue skies and everything, but you're not like dripping.
Must be a nice break for you.
It's been beautiful. I curled my hair just because I could.
Tell me a little bit about the brew scene in Augusta, Georgia now, because Augusta didn't even have a music scene when I was there. That all happened with Soul Bar and I can't remember Coco's other bar that's now, I guess, closed, Sky City.
Yeah, Sky City just, the original Sky City was sold off about 6 months to 9 months ago, and then about 2 weeks ago it was sold off again, and now it's actually a beer garden. So that's cool. But Soul Bar's still there, though.
Soul Bar is owned and operated by my high school Spanish teacher,
That's awesome.
Coco Rubio. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I
I'm sure
know
you know
Coco.
him.
He's managing the Miller Theater now.
Is he really?
He really is. They did this beautiful job redoing the whole entire Miller Theater. They spent millions and millions of dollars. It's done in this absolutely gorgeous Art Deco style. And yeah, he's managing that. So I know Coco well.
Okay, good. Coco is a wonderful guy. And Coco, if you happen to be listening, thank you not only for teaching me Spanish, for being the coolest dude ever. He actually, on my birthday, freshman year of high school, bought me an REM Green poster
Oh, what a great guy.
and gave that to me. So you want to talk about a teacher that's above and beyond. And like I think one of the coolest people in the Augusta scene. And actually, the guy that used to own the Miller Theater was my first boss in Augusta because he owned Columbia Square Theater, which isn't even there anymore. It's a car dealership.
Oh, that's, yeah. There's a lot of those.
But what's the brew scene like in Augusta, Georgia now?
So there's just 2 breweries there. We are the first brewery since Prohibition, actually. So like 96 years ago was when the last brewery closed down. And so we opened up in 2016. So we're 2.5 years old right now, and it's been awesome. We did Beer Olympics for our 2-year anniversary, and it was amazing. And there's one other brewery in Augusta. They're called Savannah River Brewing Company. They opened up about 9 months to a year after us.
So you guys got the Riverwatch name, and they were like, "Wow, the Riverwatch is kind of near Savannah River, so we're just going to take that." Did they just completely copy off you, or what?
It does cause some confusion. It definitely does. So sometimes we're a little peeved, but they're great guys over there. So.
Now, I got to taste all of your beer yesterday. Can I only get your beer in Augusta?
Yeah. Just out the greater Augusta area, so like up to Thompson and
Okay.
down to like Waynesboro sometimes. And then we also do distribute it to South Carolina, just out to Aiken. We've started dipping our toes into the Atlanta market with a couple beer fests and everything, but Atlanta's such a big market that we wanted to do it slow and do it right.
Well, and even Atlanta pre-Sweetwater, there was nothing there. And now when I go home, or I should say last time I went home, I found a lot of Colorado beer in the Georgia stores, which tells me that Georgia's beer tastes have greatly improved over the past decade. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, it's gotten so much better. Like, I moved to Augusta about almost 5 years ago now, and I think it was a big deal to find like Bell's Two Hearted sometimes. You'd be like,
Yes.
oh wow, I can get a really good IPA. And now you've got Atlanta's just exploded with great breweries, and they're really trying to bring in more spread, like across the whole entire country, across the whole entire globe and everything. So like you can finally get like the more unique Saison DuPonts and everything like that. And you've got these great options coming from Germany, and you're getting great options coming from South America and everything like that. So you can see it growing, and it's really great to watch as like people's tastes change and they get with the whatever's popular right now, and they try and find new things. It's really fun to watch.
Are you seeing a lot of that in Augusta, where people that maybe 20 years of drinking Budweiser are walking into your door and giving something that tastes a little bit different, and let's be fair, it tastes a hell of a lot better, a chance?
Yes, so we make a blonde ale. It's one of our year-rounds, and we jokingly call it our gateway to craft beer. And but we get a lot of those guys coming into the brewery. There's University Town, and there's the bases out there, so you get this kind of odd spread of people but you do get some more of those classic Bud drinkers are coming in, and yeah, we give them our blonde ale, and they're like, hey, this is good, this has flavor, this is awesome. I'm like, drink local beer.
Yeah, and that's got to be really important too, because Augusta also, I know, has grown immensely in population. I'm shocked that there's only 2 breweries there.
So are we. We are absolutely shocked. I think Augusta could easily withstand another 2 or even 3 breweries without any issues, and that's not even taking into account like the Evans areas and everything like that. So
That's where I'm from. So well, that's where I went to high school, I should say, was at Evans. And even that area up there, I mean, I remember on the corner of Washington Road, there was one Smile gas station. And when I went back last time, I mean, I didn't even recognize the place.
yeah, it's grown. And it keeps growing. They really are dedicated to bringing the downtown area back up, and they're really trying to bring as much people into the area and keep it going and keep it growing and keep that momentum going. And so it's fun to watch that. Like I said, I moved there 5 years ago, and it was so much different. You go downtown, and it was relatively quiet except for a couple of days of the month and everything. And now, there's great bars opening up. There's unique places coming together. We've just got salad places and craft beer bars going everywhere. And it's great to watch.
Yeah, I was there, I think, 7 years ago, and I was even impressed by the food choices downtown. Is Bee's Knees still there, I
Bee's
assume?
is still there. They opened up right next to Bee's Knees. They opened up a place called The Hive. It's easily one of the top craft beer places in the Augusta area, and one of my favorite places. Hey, Eric. And they've got 40 beers on tap at any given time, rotating stuff. They get really fun stuff in. They do wines and cocktails, and they got great food, and it's super, super chill.
Where does this all start for you, Ann? Where does your love of beer come from? Because I don't think you would move to Augusta, Georgia, nothing against Augusta, and I don't think you'd be this involved in it if you didn't have some sort of passion for this. Can you kind of talk to me a little bit about that?
So I kind of fell into the beer industry a little bit, actually. The brewery was actually originally going to be my mom and my dad. And then when my mom was in Germany at Doman's Academy, my dad passed away. So I wasn't really doing much with my life, or at the time, I wasn't accomplishing anything. And so I was like, okay, cool, I'll do the beer thing. And I just kind of like pivoted. And I fell into it really hard and really fast. And I I got my certified Cicerone, and I started brewing with my mom. I now run a study group for people who want to take the certified Cicerone group. I run that for them. I really enjoy bringing other people into the beer industry. I'm hopefully taking my advanced Cicerone in the this coming winter, spring. So got to start really knuckling down on the study for that. But it's been fun. It's been maybe 3.5 years since I really started getting into it, and I love it. I love the passion. I love the collegiality. I love this industry. I love the way it's kind, and they make you want to be everything. They make you want to make the good beers. You know, you see all these great beers here, and you just think, oh, I can do something like that, or I could do it this way, and I think that'd be great. And it's fun. It's just a fun industry to be in.
Kind of being out in an island on your own in Augusta, how much influence are you taking from the weekend? Are you really trying to spend time tasting other people's beers so you can go back and maybe come up with a new recipe, or hey, you know what, if I adjusted this just a little bit, it would taste better? Are you kind of using this as a learning experience as well?
Yes, definitely. Coming here gives me the chance to taste beers that I can't taste in Georgia, and so I get to taste absolutely phenomenal versions of these styles that I can't necessarily find. So like dark milds, you know, we do a small batch version of a dark mild, and it's really great. And I've, tasted a couple around here, and I'm able to, dial in, okay, I like this part of it, I like this, how can I adjust this to what I want my mild to be? And then you get to see the really fun beers, like Weldworks. I love their blackberry cobbler. I loved it. I've had it like 6 times today. And it makes me happy because I did a blackberry beer, and I get to see how they did it, and it just kind of gets the wheels turning a little bit more. Plus, then you just get to have the beers that you love and that you can't get. I think I had Fresh Squeeze like 4 times because I can't get it there, and Fresh Squeeze is just such a great IPA. It is this great, wonderful experience, and just to get to have it for me is such a nice experience because they're not in Georgia.
Yeah, and we noticed that too, that we really don't touch Colorado beer when we come here, or we try not to, because there's so much other stuff that you could never get. And I think everyone we've had on today, you can only really get their beer in their town. Melvin, I guess, being the one exception, we can get that here in Colorado, but they're our neighbors here. So I'm really glad that you guys decided to come out. You can ask Doug. We were over chat when we were planning this thing, and he said, there's a Riverwatch brewery from Augusta, Georgia. And I said, right now, email them right now. I want to talk to someone from my hometown, because when you think of Augusta, Georgia, you think of the Masters, and I think of, God, I went to high school there, and I'm so glad I'm not there anymore. You don't think about delicious craft beer. And when I went over and tried y'all's beer last night, I was like, oh, this is okay. This isn't what I expected. Not that I expected it to be bad, but I just didn't. Especially the it's hippies enter through the side door.
Hippies use the side door.
Hippies use the side door. When I tasted that for the first time, I was like, oh, okay. Well, then we need to convince them to come talk to us, because I was really excited. Did you name that beer, Ann?
I didn't. I let all of our staff come up with any style, and they got to name it. And so Hippies Use the Side Door is actually the brainchild of our bartender, who's been holding down the fort this week. So, hey, Nikki, if you're listening, you are amazing. And so all of our staff has got to come up with a beer, and she was like, "Why don't we do a?" She's a bit of a hippie. She's got chickens and everything. She's like, "Let's do a honey lavender beer." And I was like, I thought it through, and I was like, "Yeah, I can do a honey lavender beer." And so she got to name it, and it was originally going to be Hippies Use the Back Door, and then we thought it through, and we were like, maybe we should avoid that connotation. And so we changed it to Hippies Use the Side Door, and it's been amazing. Like, I mean, we're in Colorado, like land of hippies practically, and so you get people coming by, and they see it, and they're just like, I gotta have it for the name. And I'm always like, it's a really good beer too, and they have it, and they're like, oh yeah, that's a good beer.
Now, you've mentioned education a couple times, that you're still kind of trying to further that. Did you start just buying a homebrew kit and seeing where it went? Did you take classes? Where does this start for Ann?
With a bunch of sommeliers, of all people. Yeah, when I was bartending at the time, and I was with a bunch of sommeliers, and they were going to start doing Cicerone to kind of expand their horizons and help their restaurants and everything. So I hooked in with them while they started a Cicerone study group, and out of everyone in that group, the only one passed my test.
Congrats, that's awesome.
Thank you. And I'm sure they're mad right now.
Screw them.
Yeah. But so that's how I kind of got into education, and I think I could tell like just how quickly by doing that my palate was growing and my beer tastes were growing. And I think it's really important to have that knowledge. I think it makes a difference in the way you drink beer and the way you enjoy beer. So I want to, as much as I can, I want to share that with everybody else.
That completely makes sense. I have to let you chime in a little bit here today. I'm sorry, I'm hogging this whole interview.
I have a lot of questions, but you guys have been killing it so far, so I really don't want to get in the way too much. I was going to ask about your distribution. Are you guys doing packaging, or is it other tap houses in the area?
It's mostly kegs. We do bottle our year-round, so the Blonde Ale, Scenic Overlook, the Pale Ale, Route 104 for Washington Road is Route 104. Also Riverwatch Parkway is Route 104. And then Cautionary Tale, which we're actually pouring here today, is also one of our year-rounds, and that's packaged. And then after that, we only package a couple of our limiteds, our seasonals. So like 300 Power goes out. That's our Belgian Chapelle, because I think it's one of our best beers too. If it was seasonally available for this, I would have loved to send it out here. And then Through the Green is the other one we do, and that's our master's release. So it comes out, it's a Vienna lager. And so we wanted to have that one packaged so that it can go out to all the hospitality houses and people can pick up some local beer, take it to the, if they're in the hotels or, hospitality houses, or if just whoever's, renting out their house, they can, give some local beer to the people who are in their house. So we really wanted to get that one packaged in particular.
It's smart.
And are you guys doing all of the packaging yourselves?
Yep. And my labeler likes to break, so lately I've been hand labeling all the bottles.
All out of the same facility, and I'm not as familiar with the geography, obviously, as Eric is. But what's your facility look like there?
So we've got a warehouse and a big deck off of the warehouse. So we've got the tasting room. The inside tasting room's pretty small, and then mostly outdoor seating. We've got a little office space and everything. We've got a warehouse full of malts in the cold room, and where my broken labeler is currently living. And then we've got the brew house. So we run a 20-barrel brew house, and we have 4 40-barrel fermenters, 1 40-barrel bright, and then 1 20-barrel fermenter. So we have a decent fermentation capability. That 20-barrel has been really fun because it's allowed us to put smaller batches out, and we're able to do a little bit quicker turnaround on limited releases. So that's where we started putting some of our more crafty styles, like Godfather of Stout is our habanero milk stout, named for James Brown, the Godfather of Soul, from Augusta, Georgia. So, but those are a little bit more crafty, and Augusta's still growing, so we don't want to put like a whole batch of that out. So we've definitely, being able to do smaller batches has given us the fun beers that we love to make. So,
Do you see expansion outside of Augusta in the future, or are you just happy being kind of the queen of that market?
I like that you call me queen. All my friends,
I'll call you whatever you want.
all my friends are going to be like, oh no, we'll never hear the end of this. Like I said, we're starting to dip our toes in Atlanta, and we're probably going to expand into South Carolina farther than Aiken, hopefully in the near future. We've had really good responses in Atlanta, which has been, heartwarming and everything. So, we're getting there. We want to do it slow, though. Like, if you expand your distribution too fast, you start making mistakes, and we don't want that to happen. We want to, we're a small team, so, every time we expand our distribution, it's a whole lot more work that we have to do, so we want to make sure we get what we're doing right now solid and ready to go before we start adding more work on.
Athens, too, would be... I was shocked that there's no one here from Athens. You figured Athens would be the perfect fit for a microbrewery, and I know they have them there.
Yeah, well, they've got Creature Comforts is there.
Right.
So, they've got a really awesome, and Southern Brewing Company's out there, and Terrapin's out there, and Academia's out there too.
Yes.
And Academia is putting out some absolutely phenomenal stuff. So, they've definitely got some great stuff going on. Yeah, we're looking at Athens. We're thinking about it. It's because they have such great craft beer. What we want to do is maybe not pull our Blonde Ale over there and just send the more fun beers and everything, kind of showcase a little bit more of our brewing capability.
I can tell you that there's a lot of people in that town that drink beer.
Yeah.
Especially this time of year. So
there's that game that involves a ball and some things on the end of the fields.
Yeah, and the team's been pretty good recently, too, which wasn't always the case. So that's wonderful. No, I'm glad you guys are taking it slow. I will tell you that your product is phenomenal. Again, not to put negativity with Augusta, but anywhere you go to high school, you always think like, I got to get out of that place. I was excited to see a brewery from Augusta, and I was really excited to taste your beer. They were all excellent.
Thank you so much.
You should have a lot of pride in what you do, because I was thoroughly impressed. In fact, when Doug was like, they're going to do the show tomorrow, I was like, oh, that's all I needed to hear today. It's like, because I really wanted to talk to someone that comes from where I came from, if you will.
It's fun. I've really loved getting to know Augusta and everything in the past couple years, and I really love being a part of it. And it's funny, I go around town and everyone's like, hey, you're that beer girl. And I'm like, that's me, I'm that beer girl.
Do you live in Augusta, or do you live in Martinez, Evans?
I actually just moved to Augusta. I used to live in Evans, and I just bought a house. So that was a big move.
Fantastic. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah. So I've been buying furniture lately, which has been a little distracting. So.
How many hours a week is this? 90, 100, 120, whenever the work gets done for you?
Yeah, the day before I left, we just finished a brew, so I got in at like 6 a.m., and the first thing I did was start grain out, and then the last thing I did was, fill like 2.5 different orders, and I was like, what's happening here? So I left it like about 14 hours later, ran a whole CIP on my brew house, got knockout done, just everything keeps going, so. Some days are 8, some days are 16. The really bad ones are 20, but I do take the next day off if I do that, because
Good.
that's not safe in the slightest.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think there's maybe a few too many titles on your business card here? It reads like a dictionary.
Yeah, Director of Sales and Marketing, Brewer, Certified Cicerone. Yeah, it gets a little long. But no, I think I need more.
When I was doing some research ahead of time, or cyber stalking, whatever you want to call it, I noticed that both you and your mom were featured on the page, and I thought that was really interesting, because that's not a story that we hear a lot, is a mother-daughter team. And I'm sorry to hear about your dad, and I still have to ask, what's that dynamic like these days, and in an industry that is largely dominated by
It's great working with
dudes?
her. We've always got on really well. We have a very similar personality and everything. People confuse us a lot. Like on the phone, they'll be like, you sound just like your mom, and you talk just like her too. So, I mean, it's great. I love working with her. She really knows what she's doing. She's been home brewing for, my whole childhood, I think.
That was going to be my next question.
And then, she retired from the Army, and she went and did the Siebel course, and then she went to Doman's, and so, she's very knowledgeable about beer, and she's been a great resource for me as I've been, learning everything, because, like I said, I kind of jumped right in, and so if I don't understand something, I have this excellent resource right there. Hey, Mom, I don't understand how this enzyme works. Can you explain it to me? And she's like, yeah, I gotcha. And so that's been really great. And then, being a woman in the industry in the South is a little hard. A lot of people don't really see me as a brewer most of the time. They tend to see me as sales. I've been called the face of the brewery before. And I was like, mostly my face is covered in gross, yeast and hops and other fun things. So I was like, maybe I shouldn't be the face if it's that, gross. But it's a little hard. You have to prove yourself more often, and that's a little frustrating. But once you get through, people are like, oh yeah, you do know what you're talking about.
I tell people, and you probably have similar stories being a military brat, that when I moved to the South, the only word I can describe it's different. It just is. I don't think I'll ever leave Colorado. This is home now, but the 20 years I spent in Georgia between Augusta, Athens, and Buford, north of Atlanta, the South is just different. Everything is slower. Everything has a lot more syllables. I noticed you haven't picked up an accent in 5 years, which is great. You should be very proud of that. I didn't either.
I'm from D.C. I called D.C. home as an Army brat, and I talk fast, and I'm not going to stop.
How do you find yourself, do you have to change your demeanor a little bit when you're dealing with your Augusta customers? And Augusta customers, I am not making fun of you. I know it sounds like that.
I say ma'am and sir a lot more.
I do it in my job too, and people are like, call me Dave, call me Susan, and I'm like, I was raised in Georgia. You call everyone ma'am or sir, no matter how, unless they're little kids.
Yeah.
People say, well, I'm your same age. You can't call me sir. It's just how I was brought up. And
every once in a while, I'll call someone sweetie too. So,
Sweetie.
Here's my Blondale, sweetie.
You're not using bless your heart yet when someone says something dumb, though, so that's a good thing, right?
No, not yet. Though I sometimes think it, I think.
what can we expect to see in the future from you guys? Did this weekend get your mind racing about any beers you're going to go back immediately and start diving into?
Well, we're actually planning on doing a New England style release in the near future, and I'm going to pull a little bit of that from it a little bit before it's finished fermenting and play around with some mixed culture stuff with it. I think that's going to be really fun. So I really enjoy getting to do that and getting to play, with the little science and have some yeast and the biochemistry going on. And but I don't get to do it as often as I would like. So I'm really excited to get to do that. And then we're just having fun. We've got the historical beers coming out for the history museum that we do. It's based on an 1870s recipe from an Augusta cookbook. It's called Persimmon Down, and it's a persimmon beer. And it's really cool because we follow the recipe like to the letter, except for a couple different things like boiling it for hygiene purposes. But we make these like persimmon bread things, and it's this slow rise temperature mash thing, and then it's not really got any hops in it, and then it's really fun and it's really different. It actually kind of ends up tasting like persimmon champagne almost because it's really light and effervescent. We bottle condition it. It's like 3.5%, but it's as close as we can do to what you would have had in the 1870s in Georgia, which is just really fun. So that's something we really enjoy getting to do because that's different, and we like to make different things. So we've done so many different beers. It's hard to keep track of all my small batches. I like to play, like I say. It's I like to come up with recipes, and I like to, kind of keep my pulse on what's trending and everything like that. So,
well, I said I probably would never go back to Augusta. I really am tempted to take a trip back. There's people I can visit, old friends, but my first stop would be your brew house. I would love to come see you. I'd love to come sit down, and I'd love to come drink a lot of your beer because I've enjoyed the beer. I've enjoyed the conversation, and I'm really glad that you're doing it in Augusta because I think you have all the odds stacked against you, and it seems like you are just knocking your goals down left and right. So I'm talking to you from a sense of pride for you because I know Augusta is not an easy market to accomplish anything cool in. That's just what the city is like. You mentioned making your master's beer. That's Augusta. It's nose in the air. We have a golf tournament that everyone in the town can't go to. So that's kind of what I think of when I think of Augusta, and I'm really glad that you kind of have broke that mold, and it sounds like you guys have really awesome stuff going on. So thank you not only for sitting down with us today, but thank you for doing what you do. Speaking with you has been very inspiring me today, and keep rocking it out, and hopefully maybe I'll see you on the Riverwatch soon.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Come down to the brewery. I'll hook you up.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'll have to remind you who I am when I get there. But no, without a doubt. And also, I have a lot of friends in Augusta. I'm going to be sure to boost the signal. I have a lot of friends in Augusta that drink beer. You've probably met them.
They've probably come down to the brewery.
and just not even known it. But thank you for everything you do for the wonderful conversation today and taking 30 minutes off the floor to come talk to us. I really appreciate it.
This was great. I mean, I get to sit down, which is awesome. And this was absolutely wonderful. I really, truly enjoy getting to do this.
Well, we're going to – oh, sorry. Go ahead, Doug.
I was going to say sales and marketing hat. Is there anything that we can help you pimp or plug, or how do we find you online?
We're on Facebook and Instagram, so you can follow us there. And I run it mostly, so sometimes I wane a little bit, forget to do Instagram every once in a while, but it's just me pretty much. And we just whenever give us a shout out whenever. That's all we ask. Just share some love. That's all. That's about this industry is about, just sharing some love and sharing some beer.
You guys have a schedule for your next event?
What is our next event? I don't even remember right now.
You get to take some time off before that, hopefully.
Yeah.
I know I have. Oh, we have a 5K. That's our next big event. We have a 5K in like a week and a half.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Running and beer. Tell me about that pairing.
It's you got to earn your beers. And so
I like that.
We do a run club every Friday at the brewery. So if you run about 3 miles, you get a free pint just because it's fun, and we think people should try and be active. But yeah, so we're doing a 5K. It's on the 6th of October. It's called Brewtoberfest. And yeah, it's just easy 5K, and then you get 2 beers at the end of it. So, I mean, everybody wants beer. And it's funny, if you go on the website and everything, it says you don't even have to run. You can just have beer. And I'm just like, that's fine.
Well, and October's a good time to start running in Augusta because probably wouldn't be well in June there, right?
No, it's pretty rough in June. Definitely super rough in July. But yeah, October finally the humidity starts dropping and the temperatures, like the mornings and the evenings, are like really amazing. And then it still feels like summer in the afternoons. But yeah, it's definitely, I'm excited. 5K is fun. We did it last year, so this is the second annual 5K, and we had 350 runners last year, and we're hoping to hit 400 this year. So
That's
it's
awesome.
a huge,
Wow.
it's a huge, big run actually.
Well, thank you again so much for spending time with us today. And I will reach out to you on social media. I just look forward, even if you don't come back on the show, which we do want you back on, of course. I want to kind of keep up with what you guys are doing, and I'm really looking forward. Hopefully you guys will be here next year. I look forward to seeing how this next year goes for you, because I know you're going to do nothing but learn more, and you're going to do nothing but grow more. And I really like to hear about your success. So
Yeah, we're really excited. We've already started thinking about what beers we want to bring next year.
a lot of people today have told us that they start planning for 2019 the second they leave 2018, and I think that's how you have to do it.
Oh yeah. We definitely want to bring Godfather Stout next year. Just because awesome name, and I think out here it would be really, really well received.
Well, and naming beers after something that is integral to the city, that's killer. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun, yeah. So the Vienna Lager for the Masters is called Through the Green. So the triple is called 3 Under Par. So yeah, we obviously have to have golf names because it is Augusta. So
It's just smart to do that.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much.
No,
You're
thank you guys.
really good at this.
Thank you.
No, phenomenal.
I've had to do a bunch of TV interviews, so I was just like, there's gonna be no cameras. This is gonna be so easy.
Yeah, we
I
thought about
could
doing
talk to you for
cameras.
another
and-
hour.
I'm glad we didn't. Cameras, like people, we've had a couple of guests that were a little shyer tonight. I think cameras, it just takes that.
Yeah.
that
It takes it up
intensity
to the next.
I did
myself included.
I did a cooking show. I don't know if it was on when you were there. There's a cooking show in Augusta called Very Vera.
I don't know about that.
It's got like this. Actually, it's like most of the southeast and up to like Indiana. Like you can watch it and everything like that. And so yeah, we did this cooking show with her. It was a Oktoberfest, and we like made beer cheese and that kind of stuff on it. And that was the most stressful, because like we have to do like takes, and I have to like cook at the same time that I'm trying to like be like personable, and I was also like hopped up on cold medication because I got this horrible cold, and we couldn't change the date, so I took like double the amount of necessary doses, maximum strength Dayquil as you're supposed to. So if you kind of look, you can kind of tell I was like a little glazy-eyed if you find it, and I was just like, just get through it, and then I went right home. But yeah, we have news. Crews come out to the brewery like once, sometimes twice a month and everything like that. They always want to know we're a big deal for Augusta, so.
Oh no, you have to be, because again, nothing like that existed when I was there. There was nothing there that was cool. You good?
Sorry, green flash called.
Oh, okay.
I still haven't got a confirmation. It just came to
You're fine.
Pardon me.
You're good. No worries.
Yeah, no, because that's got to be huge there, and I'm just glad the community is latching onto it, because Augusta was always like, it's not the old way. We don't want to do it.
I mean, it's an uphill battle. It definitely isn't. I didn't want to say that on the air to make Augusta all mad at me. But it's definitely an uphill battle. So it's been it's Mick Ultra and Bud Light then, and you get people who are just like, nah, I'm gonna be a Bud drinker, and I want to tell them, be like, well, you're drinking South African beer, mate. And they're just like, no, not made in St. Louis. And like, it probably wasn't A, made in St. Louis. B,
Right.
it's owned by a South African company, so all your money's not really staying in this country. You know, come on, guys. A little research.
For me, it's the taste too.
Oh,
Why
yeah,
would
I know,
you
it's so
drink a
bad.
Budweiser if you can have something
Yeah,
delicious?
I don't get it. And like, a lot of breweries are making they're making light lager equivalents now, and so you can have a well-crafted version of it by a local brewery. So keep your money in your community and drink something with some sort of flavor and everything. I just made a green tea. We called it Not Your Mother's Green Tea. And I made a green tea rice ale, which sounds really cool until you realize that pretty much I made Bud Light and put green tea in it. It had more flavor than that. It was only like 25% rice, and the rest of it was like 2-row and like carapils and everything. But yeah, pretty much it was mostly just Bud Light with green tea in it. But funny name, Natural
I
with
like the
green
name.
tea.
Yeah, no, I think the name is great.
So yeah, I made that one for a beer dinner that we did. So there's a couple restaurants that'll ask us to do like one-off beers and everything for them. So Fuse is our biggest in our terms of our one-offs, and they they were doing this like Pacific Northwest, and they had like a daishi broth with nori and everything in it. So I was like, well, that's blatantly Japanese, and so
Sure.
I tossed around the idea of using sake yeast for a while, but I haven't used it much, and so I didn't want to make something that wasn't going to work with the food because I didn't know the flavors well enough. So I decided to make the green tea rice ale instead, and it was a great pairing for that dish. So it was fun.
Yeah, well, be careful before tonight. Tonight's the crazy night.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just.
It's gonna be.
I'm glad you got 30 minutes away from it. because,
Yeah, we already starting to get that glazy-eyed.
Saturday's probably the most
beer?
wild of the
Like, okay.
Yeah, no, everyone that's came down is tired, but that's the way it should be because it's
been to all the sessions so far.
It's
so
a
we're just like,
4-day fest because you got 2 sessions in one day. So
you guys head back tomorrow then?
yeah, we're super early. It's gonna suck. We have like a 7 a.m. flight.
Oh, out of DIA, wow.
I have some information for you that
Okay.
you might be interested in. Probably about 9:40 to 10 o'clock. This hallway's gonna get really, really loud with volunteers and dropping stuff off. I didn't know if you guys were still gonna be here. Just
We will be done at 9:30.
No, I didn't.
Blue chair.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Ready to go? Yes. Okay. As a matter of fact,
Thank you so very much.
absolute pleasure.
That was
Seriously.
wonderful.
Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
Hope to talk to you again.
Yeah. Yeah, just contact us on Facebook. It's I'm a little bit more responsive to Facebook messages.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
I'm not going to butcher names.
It's Jason.
Jason, this is Eric and Brandon.
Brandon.
Jason and Brandon, okay.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, I'd love some. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Right over the laptop. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
jeez.
fine. Boy, we're smart. Oh, please. And thank you. Oh yeah, you guys had 3 beers that I absolutely loved yesterday.
Oh, awesome. Good to hear that.
The honey hibiscus is.
Yeah, that was our. We just blew that keg, or our second keg, so that's all we.
Well, I'm glad I got to have it yesterday because I loved it.
I'm glad. That was originally going to be a seasonal of ours, and then it just kind of turned into a year-round thing. It's kind of
Yeah, we had just several restaurants in town that were like, no, please keep brewing this, and they've kept the demand for it going. So
Throw these on.
Alrighty.
Oh, nice.
And I'm gonna let you take lead here.
It is it's another world in here. It makes a little difference when you can.
Oh, yeah,
kind of
yeah.
Hear,
Oh, sweet.
hear your own voice. And
Sure.
We'll make sure that we're getting the audio. We're doing the live stream right now, and we didn't get a chance to talk about this part. I don't think we'll be cutting all of the individual sessions we're doing with people up into individual episodes that we'll be publishing on our podcast. At that point, we'll reach out and let you know, hey, this is done, and
Oh, great.
offer you guys a chance for some input, and you can share it however you guys want to share it. And before I forget to do it, because I've already done it 3 times today, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. You guys look a little road weary at this point.
They actually look the most awake out of every guest we've had, and please take that as a compliment because everyone that has sat down today has looked happy, but exhausted.
It's overwhelming for sure.
It is, yeah, and on a Saturday night at this point, I mean, we've all been through all of like the whole weekend, and it means a lot that you guys again would take some time and sit down and talk about what you do. I was actually really anxious to talk to Tumbleroot when I started doing research about who we wanted to talk to. This is a big opportunity for us because we talk to a lot of brewers, but they're all in Colorado, and I figured, well, let's talk to all the states around Colorado because even if we're not drinking their stuff right now, there's a chance pretty soon that we could be.
Yeah.
Yours was one that I happened across early on in the research, and I liked your story and was happy that I got a response from you. And fast forward to right now, and we've got you guys here. How has your Great American Beer Festival gone?
Well, Jason, take the lead on this.
Yeah, it's gone really well. I mean, even though we're a neighboring state and we're not like a distribution first brewery, I think so many people from Denver come down to Santa Fe. They have their Santa Fe experiences, or they at one point in time lived there, or were from New Mexico. So I think one of the best parts for me, we've been behind the booth most of the time, is meeting these folks and, hey, well, you're in Santa Fe, and just talking about their experience and saying, hey, when you come down, check us out, and sharing a little bit about ourselves. So it's been a great opportunity to just meet a lot of people and share a little bit of our beer and our story.
You guys do not only beer, but also are into stilling as well.
That's correct. Yeah, we're a full all of our distilling ingredients and everything's organic. We go fully organic for all of our spirits, and all from scratch as well. So we bring it all in. We don't take any rectifying. We brew it all. We start off all of our whiskeys and vodka starts off as a basically an unhopped beer. We distill that down. Our agave spirits and our rums all start off as organic syrups and sugars. So, yeah.
And it's all about having a full, complete bar at our main tap room, especially. I mean, we have a smaller tasting room that has a full bar, but we have an old historic club that we've taken on, and a lot of live music and great outdoor space, food trucks, and provide a full from-scratch bar program. You know, I think part of it is the restrictions in the licensure in our state.
I was going to ask about that. If you're doing both of those, like...
Well, we're allowed to do it, but there are certain things, like we can only use our own beer and spirits, and we're also allowed to use wine and cider that's made in New Mexico, and other spirits that are made in New Mexico. But, of course, that's such a limited palette that we want to make some variations of classic cocktails. For instance, we might have to make a martini. We have to make our own vermouth from scratch.
Oh, wow.
And then, you know, things like that, or to make an Amaro from scratch, because we can't use some of the classic ones from Italy or from France. So, you know, what restricts us also makes us more creative, and see it as a challenge, right? And then we also do things we don't have to. We make our own tonic syrups from scratch, and our bartenders love that. You know, they really see it as an opportunity to be creative and expressive at that level, right there at the bar. So.
And that ensures that you guys are doing stuff that literally no one else can.
Yeah,
it's not that they don't, it's just they will never be able to.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, too, the bartenders and servers, it's almost like a playground for them. The majority of our specialty cocktails were actually just created by the staff themselves, whether they're a play off of an existing cocktail that just kind of tweaked a little bit or something entirely different. It's kind of neat to sit down, and they kind of change it out every few weeks with new cocktails. But, yeah, just to see, oh, hey, Cassidy made this one, or hey, Michael created this cocktail. It's really cool to see that.
Oh man, they get excited about it. It's like new cocktail menus coming up in 2 weeks. You know, get started on your, you know, refining this, and then show it to the bar manager, and he'll be like, yeah, this will work. Let's do a few little tweaks. But all those staff members are cited on the menu, and they're, I think, feel pretty involved and proud about it.
So kind of out of rules that are restrictive, you guys have become extremely innovative, and I think is that kind of where the difference in your brand came from? It's like, well, we have to do this a little bit differently. Let's completely take this to the next level, because you don't see a lot. I didn't see the word organic around yesterday a lot. You guys were blasting that everywhere, and I was like, okay, they must be doing something different, and it shows in your beer. It tastes really, really good. So is that kind of where that came from? Like, well, we have to do everything differently. Let's just do it all our own way.
I think so. There's a lot of, well, at a production scale that we are at, there's a little bit of experimentation, but we also have to make sure that we're not going completely off the wall. But we'll sit down and we'll kind of be like, okay, what do we want out of this beer? What do we want out of this seasonal variety? Or one of the things we wanted to do this spring or summer was a field beer. So like, what's going to be in season? What's going to be fresh? So we actually did a collaboration with a brewery down in Albuquerque, and we did a peach Dortmunder. So basically our Dortmunder recipe, added some peaches to it, and it's really just a really nice kind of clean peach beer. But yeah, basically it gives us a chance to kind of play around with what's new and what's around that the other places might not necessarily take that as a, oh, hey, let's do this. But yeah, it gives us a chance to play around.
Based on your hibiscus beer, I would love to try your peach beer. I'm a sucker for peaches, man.
Nice.
So I'm sure it's absolutely delicious.
Yeah, it's got a really nice nose, and yeah, it's got a really just kind of a hint of peach flavor. But the nose, it's just you put it up to your mouth, you know right away that it's peaches. So
I was a fan of the honey IPA.
Oh, cool! Thank you.
And that's that I think it was one of the beers I got to try like early on. You know, before my judgment really starting to get affected, and I think it just made me a lot more excited to be able to sit down and talk to you guys about that. What went into the beer selection for what you guys brought to Denver this year?
Yeah, I think that one was we had success with it. We entered it into the National Honey Board's honey beer competition. We got gold for that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And they came back to us, and they're making a big push to do some training with other breweries and promote honey beers, talk about what's been successful with certain breweries. And they asked us for some feedback. They got samples from us, and they took it around the country. We actually had brewers come to our booth, say, "I had your beer in Missouri, and I'd love to talk to you more about it." And I think one of the reasons why they selected it, I think, if you put it against a whole bunch of IPAs, it's not going to be appreciated for, I think the standards for those IPAs. But we really just started with the honey and built it from there. We're like, how do we accentuate this? How do we get the color right to evoke honey, right? How do we choose the right malts to really emphasize the honey or to evoke honey again, right?
Right.
Which hops do we select to go with this honey? And it was really built all around that. And I think they were really psyched about it because they're like, yeah, that's a great approach. That's really what we should be doing with this.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not a common ingredient, or even like a flavor target for an IPA profile, is it not?
Yeah, I think that oftentimes with West Coast style IPAs, I mean, much like what's going on with the brewed IPAs, right? There's adding adjuncts, adding sugars to dry it out. With honey, you do get that drying, but you can have this perception of the flavors of it kind of evoke sweetness, even though it's not sweet on your tongue, even though the sugars are fully fermented. So there is this drying effect, but it's not used like corn sugar is used quite commonly, right, in IPAs to give you that drying effect, because of the fact that there's this kind of other layer that kind of maybe takes if you're an IPA producer and you just want to be hops only, hops forward, it maybe takes away from that, right? That perception of sweetness or something else, right?
I think it's because of beers just like that people are finally starting to realize IPA doesn't have to mean super hoppy. I mean, if you like that, that's great. I personally enjoy super hoppy IPAs. This year at GABF, I've learned that there's so many different ways that you can take that particular style and make it anything that you want to be. So hats off. I mean, it was the experience of that one in particular. Again, very early in the festival for me was one that really stuck with me.
Great to hear. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm not an IPA guy at all. And yesterday, Doug was like, "Look, I know you don't want to try an IPA. You have to try it." And I was like, "And it's a double." I was like, "What are you doing to me here, bud?" And he wouldn't give it to me if he knew I didn't like it. And I took a sip of it, and I was like, "Okay, you can call that an IPA, but that is not what I think of when I think of an IPA. Like, that's absolutely delicious." So yeah, mad props to you guys. I like the trend of the sour IPAs and the fruity IPAs because then it's an IPA I enjoy to drink. I don't do the hops like he does over there. Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah, sure.
But,
Everyone's got their style, yeah.
So how long have you guys been doing this? That's one thing I really didn't get a sense of from what I was able to find out about you online.
So Jason, as a personal brewer, I've been in the homebrew scene for 4 years, and Jason kind of took me under his wing here with Tumbleroot, and I've been brewing full time with him since February is when we actually started production. So I'm relatively new to the scene. Jason, he can kind of give his background.
Yeah, I mean, I started brewing in college, went to Colorado College back in the early 90s, kind of saw the early growth of this movement here, and was taking microbiology, and when I learned, wow, you can do this at home, right? Started home brewing then, worked at a brewery, Steamboat, out of college, then went on to teach, but I home brewed and judged, was kind of part of the homebrew scene for decades. And then when I wanted to move on to something else, I started hanging out breweries, went up to Los Alamos, Bathtub Row Brewing Co-op, helped them get started, brewed with them for a couple years. And then when my partner and I were thinking about this brewery distillery concept, I knew I needed to get some professional distilling experience. So I went down and started hanging out with some different distilleries, worked with Broken Trail down in Albuquerque, and Matt there, it's a brewery distillery as well. There are a few others in the state, and he showed me so much about it and allowed me to start doing our own whiskeys and other barrel-aged spirits, so that while we were trying to find our place and build out our place, I was able to get a head start on some of these spirits that require a little aging. So when we opened up, we were able to open up with a rye malt whiskey that started out as a 55% rye beer, clear beer that we distilled, which is one of the cool things about the synergy between a brew house and a distillery, right? Being able to make these interesting beers and then turn them into a whiskey and pull out some of these beer flavors or whatever, you know, and I don't know, that magic of how you can concentrate a beer through distillation and get this kind of cool whiskey. It's awesome.
It does sound like magic, and I'll admit I didn't even know that was a thing before I stumbled across your website, and it talks about exactly what you were just describing. I thought that's really cool. It is magic.
Yeah.
You could take a beer and transform it into a spirit.
Yeah.
A whiskey in particular. You just do not associate those two things generally.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, we went to Stranahan's here, and you know their story is with Flying Dog up in Aspen. They were able to use that beer and distill it and make a whiskey, that Colorado whiskey. But it was a real kind of brewery-based thing. You go there now and check out their facility. It is a beer brewery all the way up to the point of the still. You know, they make a finished beer product and distill it. So that's kind of the thing that we're trying to do there. And even with our vodkas and more highly distilled beverages, they begin as a beer. So
how I get the sense this is not your first GABF, but is this your first year as Tumbleroot at GABF?
Exactly. Yeah. So we opened our tap room back in April.
Yeah.
So we're still fairly new to the scene, but I mean, it's we've been pretty well received. People seem to really enjoy our beers and have given us pretty much nothing but good feedback, which is really encouraging. So yeah, it's great to hear as a first-time brewery up here just to get good feedback from people.
yeah, it has been for sure.
You guys are really innovative. Have you been able to walk around and taste other beers and get even more ideas that you're like, oh, okay, I know we're doing things differently than everyone else is, but now that I've learned this, I'm going to take it back? Is that kind of how the weekend's been for you?
I feel like as brewers, we always have this mad scientist kind of vibe going where we're always looking for what else we can do. And it's just one of those things, yeah, you try something else, like, oh man, what if I took this spice and that fruit and did this style of beer, and like you just get all these different inspirations that kind of come about. And yeah, it's really kind of fun. And we were kind of talking about this. We have a couple ideas for some beers we want to brew in the future, and we're like, let's try some different styles of these beers that might be out here and see what kind of comes to mind from us that we could maybe turn into something of our own. So yeah, that's just one of those things that just is always happening.
It's awesome. I think you spend a lot of time in your mind thinking about what if I change this variable, the yeast, or you know how I hop it. But then to actually go out there and try all of these samples that were other people's brainchilds, right? And you're like, oh, I bet they did this, I bet they did that, and it really fills out that imaginative part of your brain that's always churning, right? You've got some concrete examples of, oh, that's what happens when you do that, right? Beyond what you'd be able to brew in your own kind of personal history. So it's amazing to be around all these thousands of beers. What a playground.
I know this is a really unfair question, but is there anything specific that you guys have started processing or considering that you might want to share?
We haven't had a chance to really sit down and talk about.
That's why it's really
unfair. Yeah. I think we've been mentally probably processing a lot of this, but we haven't actually had a chance to sit down and actually talk about it. But yeah, I think one of the things that we were thinking about, or we're planning on doing in the future is, or not in the future, but in a few weeks, is a American Orange Stout. So basically a big chocolatey stout, nice hop profile too. And I've been trying a lot of the stouts just to kind of see what I'm liking and what I'm not liking now. And one thing that I've noticed, when I first came to GABF, I was all about the big imperial stouts. And now as I'm going around sampling more of them, I'm just getting very thick. Like they're a little bit too thick and rich for me. And it's making me realize that when we're planning about our stout, I don't want something that's just like super lactose heavy, just really malty. I want a nice balanced stout, something that has good flavor, that's not just going to sit there and coat your tongue and have to drink 3 glasses of water before it leaves your throat. But yeah, so I think there's just some of these things that just sit back there, and they're just kind of just ever present, just kind of saying, hey, remember that one beer? Don't do that, or do this because it was really, really good. So yeah.
And we are really seasonal, so like that is a beer that I'd brewed years ago that just says Christmas time to me, orange and chocolate, and that's coming up. Also, we're rolling out some Belgian beers, bringing in some Belgian yeast and playing with that for a few generations. And I've been around drinking. There aren't that many of them. It's crazy how many now juicy IPAs and how few Belgian beers are around. So like a Tripel is one of my favorite styles, and I'm thinking about I want to have a little bit more hoppy version, figuring out what combination might work well with that yeast expression, and so that's on my mind for sure. And I'm, for all of the different directions that the IPAs are going, I've been really fascinated with these brute IPAs. Just they're very clean, where the juicy can be, sometimes they're, I think, very fun and fruity, and sometimes there's this extra resininess that's attached to those particles that is like, no, I don't care for that, and then I don't know when it's going to leave my mouth because it's clinging there, So I really like some of these brute IPAs. They're just very elegant and be worth playing around with.
Yeah, we noticed that last year the barrel aged was the thing. This year the brute is the thing.
Yeah.
I want to know from two pros, what is it going to be next year?
Oh my gosh, what's the thing coming, huh?
It's so hard to predict these things. I mean, I feel like one brewery comes out with something that just completely blows everybody's minds, and then everybody else just takes on to it. Like it took a couple years for the hazies and juicies to really get to where they are right now. And I mean, I think here in Colorado, like WeldWorks did wonders for the juicy scene here. Yeah, and it's kind of weird because New Mexico has this really odd like lag time of like what's popular. It takes about 3 or 4 years for it to kind of make its way down to us. So like people in New Mexico just still really love West Coast style, just super dank IPAs. So it's one of those things where I don't know. I mean, obviously the fruit beers and the sours and things like that are still going to be popular, but it's so hard to predict what might come about.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've been really appreciating some of the lagers that are coming out of this area, and I think there's maybe not a new thing, but it may be a newfound appreciation.
A resurgence,
of some of those, yeah, of people really. It's very hard to do, but we were at a beer stot, and just what they were doing with decoction and how you could taste the difference and see the difference in those beers. I know a lot of brewers are fascinated by that and really appreciate it, but maybe more of the general public will really start drinking those traditional lagers.
Yeah, I was kind of saying too that there's, I mean, for the last few months I've been kind of on a pullback from. I want to go back to the classics. I want to just be able to sit down and have like a beer that doesn't have all kinds of crazy stuff going on. I just want like a nice, clean, easy drinking beer. And I kind of see. I've been talking to my friends about that, and I feel like it's a kind of a common thing where they're almost getting burnout of these just ridiculous beers. And so I think there might be a pullback to some of the classics. And yet people that can do just a really phenomenal Pilsner or a great Kolsch or just a nice Märzen, like those are just going to be some good ones.
Kolsch is the one in particular
Yeah.
that I think for some reason it always catches my eye
Yeah.
because they're so not uncommon now, but it's uncommon for someone to feature a Kolsch,
Yeah.
especially like bring it to a festival. And I
Exactly.
saw more Kolsch this year
Yeah.
than I have in the past 4.
For sure. I think it's just got that nice kind of, it's one of those beers where you can go to a beer garden or the patio on a nice summer or spring day and just have 2 or 3 Kolsches and you can still function. You can still taste things. You can still enjoy food. Like if you have 3 just crazily bitter IPAs, I mean, your palate's just gone at that point. But I think a Kolsch or a Pilsner or something is just going to be very easy to have a couple of and still be able to enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think early days of brew pubs, there would be Kolsches, right? And it would be called that kind of intro beer or stepping stone beer. And I guess it was being brewed for what it was not, right? It's not overly bitter. It's not overly, and it wasn't really about necessarily appreciating the qualities that it does have, right? Those subtle apple notes, or you know what I mean? Just like having a gorgeous head on that, or all of these little things that would perfect that style, right? Now you're starting to see people, and I think people who are real beer aficionados go to those things that, yeah, they're not the nth degree of any of these things. They're very simple and subtle, but when done right, you can really dig them, really appreciate them. So
It's like a good woman. The exotic ones aren't always the ones that are going to make you
Right,
happy
right.
in the long run.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't have said that on the air.
You appreciate her for her subtle qualities.
I was going with something, and I still am. But when you said that, I was like, yeah, not the direction I was headed whatsoever there. I was going to tell you guys that I was not going to come in here yesterday and try any Citra Pales because Upslope Citra Pale is one of my top 5
it's a
beers
good
of all
beer,
time. Yours is right up there, though. It's in fact, I think yesterday I said it was as good. I don't like to go better, but I was afraid. I was like, man, I'm gonna have this and it's gonna beat Upslopes. And I was like, man, these guys just don't make bad beer. And I'd say that fits more in the easy drinking beer style, not as complicated. I love the fruity stuff, but sometimes I just want to sit down and drink a beer, and I think your Citra was a perfect example of that style.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's definitely one of our more popular beers. It's kind of fun as a brewer to walk into the tap room just in plain clothes and just kind of walk around and hear just almost spy on people as they're drinking their beer and kind of get their feedback. And yeah, I mean the Citra Pale Ale is definitely one of our most popular beers, and we've taken it to other events, and it goes really well. People seem to really enjoy it, so I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, no, I tried all 4 of your beers, and again, guys, I don't do double IPAs, and I was impressed with all of them. So thank you so much for not only sitting down with us today and sharing your story, but gosh, guys, keep doing what you're doing. Everyone we've kind of talked to today, we've been shocked at the amount of time that they've spent doing this and the quality of the beer that related to that. And I'll put you guys in the same boat. I can't believe the amount of time you've been doing this. And is it fair to say that we can expect to see you guys back here next year?
I think that's a fair assumption.
That's the plan, yeah.
We'd love to sit down and talk to you and kind of see how the year went. We actually are going to, plan trips. We want to kind of see the breweries firsthand because I think tasting your beer here is great, but I think coming into your home and spending some time there, that's where you get the full experience.
Definitely, and again, with the model of our business, it really is about having the beer in that environment, right? Or the cocktails, or in some cases, the beer cocktails. So.
And
So
you
yeah,
guys
you're welcome.
have 2 facilities now in Santa Fe?
So we have a production facility that's separate from our main tap room. The production facility has a tiny 45 or 49 person capacity, just a little tasting room, limited hours.
Tasting,
But
okay.
yeah, the majority of, pretty much all of everything's focused on our big tap room, which is more close to town and just a little bit better, more easily accessible area for many people.
Yeah, real large outdoor space, a lot of private events going on in there while our customers are there. It's just a very, very kind of big space with all kinds of possibilities, great stage, sound system. We have live music almost every night. So that experience, the fact that it's become a community hub, and that's kind of how it was designed. And people are, it's very kid-friendly as well, so it's become kind of this big center for all kinds of social and other events in the town, and we just feel like our beer and our spirits are meant to kind of accompany that, but that's the real focus. So you
I
have
like
to see
that.
the space, yeah.
And what do you guys have next up after you get back and get some downtime after GABF? Is there any event in particular you want to talk about that's on the horizon?
Yeah, we have a harvest festival where we over the weekend of the 6th and 7th of October, and we found that we've been through this connected to all these different people, different organizations in so many different ways. So bringing into the people that are part of the agricultural scene in the area into our space, thank them for the connections that we've had and developed, let them have a chance to talk with our customers. We got music all day long. We've got some classes and some interactive tasting, learning experiences. So
yeah, so our local homebrew club will actually be there brewing a batch of all grain beer just to show, hey, this is how, on a tiny scale, how it works. And our farmer who collects our grain is going to be there with a little petting zoo and just kind of some fun stuff like that. We'll be pressing some apples and it'll be a fun time.
It's our first festival, so we're excited about it.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, you guys have been great. I want to thank you again. Thanks for spending some of your precious time with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Been awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Was this your all's first podcast too?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts, but this is my first time on one. So.
Well, then we are absolutely honored. Thank you
Awesome.
very much.
Of course. Thank you guys.
That was really good.
That was
Awesome.
wonderful.
Perfect time too.
Oh, great. Oh, sweet. Yeah, a couple minutes.
Yeah, have
before-
you guys noticed? Is it pretty crazy up there?
Oh,
We always
man.
notice that the Saturday session is nuts.
No,
man.
I'm glad we decided to do this on Saturday. It's
Yeah, this has been a nice
a nice break.
decompression.
Everyone
Yeah.
has told us that. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, can I sit down for 30
Yeah.
minutes? Sweet,
Right.
awesome.
well, like it's totally different too because as brewers we want to be able to kind of engage with the people,
Right.
and so like we kind of want to talk about. I mean, just not like just 10 seconds of like, hey, here's what goes into this beer. But now it's just like, hey, what? Like the people are
Hope you
just
enjoy it.
so
Hope you enjoy it.
yeah.
Last night we were taking the light rail home, and there was
Uh-huh.
this dude about twice my size that could not stay awake.
Oh
Just-
gosh.
And I was like, man, you gotta drink
Danger
water.
to
You
Yeah,
gotta,
I
you gotta
know.
pace yourself,
Yeah.
man. You can't.
I know.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys see it all though.
Sure.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. No, thank you guys so much. This
Of
was
course,
cool.
yeah, you guys have
Thank
been
you.
awesome. I'm gonna tune in and listen to you guys. It's I don't listen to too many podcasts, but it's definitely like when we're driving in the car or something, there's some podcasts on and just like go for it.
And we
so.
do a lot of beer stuff. We also do a lot of pop culture stuff too. So
Yeah.
if you're into movies, geek stuff,
Cool.
video games.
That's awesome, yeah.
we're all into that too. So.
My new favorite has been Armchair Expert. I don't know if you guys listen to
That's
Dax.
Dax Shepard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've listened to that one a
turned
lot.
me on to that
Oh,
one.
did
Yeah.
you?
If you've never heard How Did This Get Made?
I don't know.
They pick a movie.
Oh, okay.
They're like, okay, how the hell did this ever
Really?
get funding? And they talk about it's phenomenal.
That's
Yeah,
really
it's,
cool.
It's really good. So
How
if
Did
you
This
guys
Get
are into
Made?
that stuff, yeah, it's
Okay.
the same guys that did The League.
Oh, really? Okay,
Paul
great.
Scheer
Yeah.
and the guy that played
Those guys are
Robbie.
hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's I think you'll love it.
Cool.
Thank you guys so
Yep.
much.
Nice to meet you guys as
Yeah,
well.
it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, we'll see you
Take
around.
care.
Please come down,
We'll be
check
in
us
touch.
out.
Yep. Cool. We'll see you guys around.
It's a pleasure, man.
Thanks. Take this and throw it away.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
See you guys. Very nice to meet you.
Howdy. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No, you didn't at all. Ashley.
Eric.
Nice to meet you.
Eric, that'll be really easy to remember.
Eric and Eric.
That's right.
Hey, you got,
Hey,
Ashley.
nice to meet you, Ashley.
Oh, thanks again.
got any more of that water?
Yeah, we do. Oh, there is plenty in there, as a matter of fact, and some cups. So good.
Have these. Ashley, would you like one?
Yeah.
You guys, like everyone else, excited to get 30 minutes off the floor?
My feet.
Every single person that sat down has been
We're
like,
like,
oh,
hey, just-
thank
just-
God,
just
this is
give me a
going to be
second."
great.
So quiet and nice back here. Goodness.
Yeah, that's what she said it's going to get crazy in about 20 minutes. She's like, you got to stop recording by 9:30 because this place is going to be nuts. And I said, okay, that's fine. We got one more to do and we'll be good.
Down
So,
here? Yeah,
Awesome.
I don't know.
I'm gonna grab some more caffeine. Can I get anyone else anything?
I'm good with water.
You want a Coke?
No.
No.
Yeah. I was pointing it for you.
Oh, no, I'm good.
How you
What
like
are those are like a different tasting glass?
They
for
were the
This is the festival glass for the earlier session today.
for the
okay.
brewers and the members. Yeah.
members, Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
yeah, same reaction from everyone. Everyone is looks like they've had a great time, but everyone's just tired. So
we went and had a foot massage earlier.
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah.
We're not a couple or anything.
Okay.
We're like we're just gonna go. Have
We
a
did,
foot
however,
massage
go
then.
out a block down the street and get foot massages.
It's my first experience with couples massage, but
But it worked
but
out
we're not
well.
a couple.
Okay, good. That's great.
Sadly, mine too, actually.
Oh, the beer that I wanted to mention isn't on that list.
Which beer you want to mention?
Oh God, what was the session 38?
Oh yes,
That's Golden
well,
God.
So that is
Okay.
the Jameson collaboration beer, but and if we're not recording, then Jameson did not want us to serve it at our booth, even though we entered it. So
Oh, really?
it was you know what? Too late now. Haha.
Okay.
We can always cut that part out in the
Yeah, we
the
can.
actual.
We
part
we
that
are
we'll
we are live
publish.
though.
You mean the too late now part? Haha. No. Okay.
No, we are live now. So if there's something that you don't want to get out there, but we can't edit anything that you do say later. So if there's a mistake made, you just let us know.
Thank you.
Cable on the
Appreciate
left.
that.
Throw the cans on. It's a different experience. You'll be able to tell if you're coming through. All right. You're excited to be here. Did you get
I
drug into
do
this?
not like hearing my own voice.
You
at
don't?
all, no.
When you hear it through here, though, you're gonna absolutely love it.
Yes, it's warm.
Yeah,
and
it's
inviting
warm
in
and
here.
nice.
You guys actually sound way better than in actual without the microphone. You
I was
know,
going to
like
say
you're-
creepier, but that's cool.
Creepier? No, that's me actually. I think I'm the creepier one.
I like your honesty already. This is going to be so much
It's
fun.
gonna be all right. We'll be okay.
You guys are our last interview for the day, and I've been looking forward to this one. I think that when we first posed the question about you guys sitting down and someone from Green Flash sitting down and talking with us, that there was like some skepticism, like, what are you going to ask us? It's like, hey, we're just fans. You know, we're at GABF with you. We really like your beer. We just want to find out more about the brewery, the brewers, the personalities, the staff, everything, all of it. So
Sure.
whatever we can squeeze into whatever time we have, and we promise not to ask you stuff that you don't already know the answer to. So this should be.
We
should
only
be fun.
found out about this a couple hours ago. So
Did
Yeah,
you?
there's- we're
I mean,
totally
yeah,
not
he was
even
like,
nervous.
Yeah, no. Man. We weren't skeptical about anything.
No, we talked to someone at Green Flash yesterday, and I think once she met us, she was fine with it. But she was like, "You guys have to understand, we get a lot of weird requests, and we just wanted to make sure that you guys were above board." And I was like,
We get weird requests.
"That's what we were told, correct?"
Usually I'm the one that makes weird requests.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
gonna say that's like, all right, cool.
These may be your PR or your, I guess, marketing
was
people
Barb.
that are like,
I think it was Barb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shielding you from all of the.
We are
the
very sensitive.
crazy-
We need to be shielded, obviously.
Well, so late on a Saturday night, Great American Beer Festival 2018, has this been a successful one for Green Flash?
I think it's been successful. I mean, we obviously, Green Flash had some, let's just say, financial turmoil earlier this year. So a lot of people don't actually know that we're still in business. And so this kind of, I think, hopefully puts that sort of rumor to rest. And on top of that, we've changed ownership, and when you have new ownership, you maybe have questions about what's going to happen in the future. A lot of people, a lot of the employees have, and we've kind of righted the ship here, and we have a plan now, and we're really, we are, some of the new beers that we're going to release next year, we're on out there on the festival floor. So got a lot of great feedback and heard a lot of good things from our fans who, are super supportive and who, come out and tell me how they love West Coast IPA and how some of like the Jameson collaboration beer that we did was their favorite beer in that festival area. So, right on.
Okay,
Thanks,
clear to
guys.
you guys, yeah.
Favorite beer of
The festival?
2018.
We were
hands down.
Yeah, I would say we're proud of that. Would
Yeah.
you say that, Ashley? Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. In fact, I gave it to him, I gave it to Nikki, and I went back up and got another one because I wanted more of it. I could not believe how, and I don't know how to describe it. Doug, you used the word buttery. Where does that unique flavor come from? Because I've never had anything like it, and it tastes amazing.
Well, it was kind of, I'm like, all right. Because the actual beer recipe, before it even went in the barrel, they even asked us to describe it. We're like,
Not
golden
really sure.
porter is basically the best we came up with. So I actually attribute probably a lot of that to the malt characteristics combined with the barrel characteristics. And we left it in for pretty much exactly 6 months. And we started tasting it after, I don't know, maybe 4 months.
Yeah.
And even then, and by the time we actually finished it off, it turned out just unbelievable. I mean, better than we ever thought, I think.
Right.
It
We
was
did
going
a
to.
version of it last year, and we used a different yeast, an Irish
Yeah.
ale yeast. I think it added some phenols that were maybe not as pleasant. So this one we did with
Right.
our Cal ale yeast, our house ale yeast, and it just made it so clean. And it let the barrel flavors shine through. It let those malt flavors shine through. We used a little bit of coffee malt or brown malt from Simpson's, and that just gives it this subtle roastiness. So it's it's not a stout, it's not a porter. However, it does have some little nuttiness there, and the Jameson barrels are really they're really. I mean, Jameson and I don't it's really fruity. Pear, apple, etc. And so we ended up getting a lot of those flavors in there. But I also tasted passion fruit from the wood. We got coconut and vanilla. It's just super complex, and a lot of people came back, which was really heartening.
Those Jameson barrels came in, and I remember that truck coming in at like 8 o'clock in the morning and opening it up, and just got like that, just Jameson chill, because they were just so potent and
They were
wet.
fresh as can be,
We were
yeah.
so fresh. We were so excited to use them.
And there was a lot of there was a little. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. There was a little bit in the bottle of every barrel, and these kids were like, "We should get all that stuff," and I was like, "You guys leave that in there."
We only emptied like 4.
Oh, now I find out.
It's in the bottom drawer of my office.
So the good news is that you guys made a fantastic brew that I'm sure left an impression throughout all of the festival. The bad news is it doesn't sound like that's going to be something that's like in like any kind of scale of your production going forward.
We have an ongoing relationship with Jameson. I certainly, if you're listening, Jameson, we'd love to have more barrels.
We have mentioned it. So
we have mentioned it
yeah,
many
we would
times.
actually really like
so
to do it.
We
so.
would love to. I would love to do that as a, a seasonal release, maybe an annual release where we could put it out in like a single serve 12-ounce package. I think it'd be just a great beer to put out. And that's the kind of stuff that hopefully with the new Green Flash is that we're going to focus more on doing some really creative things and putting out some, small can releases, some small bottle releases, and really get back to our roots there with, just making creative beers and having, beer being the important thing, which is sometimes you lose sight of. So it's nice to really regain that focus.
I would say that we're about as dialed in to the craft brew scene, Colorado specifically, but nationwide overall. I think we try and keep up on the news. I had no idea about the ownership or any of the financial concerns or anything like that. All I knew is that every time Eric, he lives down in Colorado Springs, every time he drives up, he stops and buys a 6-pack of passion fruit kicker every time. So,
Yeah.
and that was never interrupted. He always kept showing up with the passion fruit kicker, and we had no idea that any of that was happening. So, first of all, how long have you guys been with Green Flash?
So I'm the brewmaster and Eric Jensen, and I've been there for close to 7 years.
I'm the head brewer. I've been there almost 4 years now.
And let's talk about like the last 3 years in particular, because I think that's, halfway across the country here in Colorado. That's when I started to notice that the different, we got a Green Flash beer to start with, and then maybe it was probably like 2015, 2016 that we noticed that we were getting more of the cans. What did the trajectory look like that in that time? Had you guys ramped up production, distribution?
2015 was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when I first saw you guys, or at least out here.
Yeah. I mean, what did we do? 90,000 barrels?
Wow. Yeah, close. Yeah, maybe 70 to 90.
I mean, it was a lot.
It was a big year. And our goal at that time was to be a national brewery, and especially with sort of mid-sized breweries like we are. In order to get out there, you got to put beers in packages, and so we bought a new bottling line. It's from KHS. It does a great job. We get really good results from it, and at that point, it was kind of like we made that big investment, and we got to go big. So we started shipping beer outside of San Diego in greater volumes, and then that's when we started building a brewery on the East Coast, which we don't have anymore.
That I did hear about. It was in South Carolina, North
Virginia
Carolina,
Beach.
Virginia.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you hear me cry there? I am sad.
What drew me to you guys first, honestly, as a comic book fan, was the name. I went to a brewery a bar that had 50 different beers on tap, and I saw Green Flash Passion Fruit Kicker, and I said, okay, what's that? Green Lantern and the Flash is what I think of. I'm sure that's not where the name came from, but at all. And in fact, I'll have you tell me. But when I saw that, you don't often see passion fruit in beer, and I love the word kicker. And as soon as I had a taste of it, I mean, I sat there the rest of the night until they closed and kept ordering them. And glad I can get them in cans at my local liquor store. Where did the name come from, though? Because honestly, guys, that's what drew me on a list of 50 different breweries. I was like, nope, that one. That's what I want to try.
Green Flash?
Green Flash.
Green Flash is a meteorological kind of phenomena. When you have a sunset, there's certain conditions that happen where right when it's setting, you can get this little sort of flash of green. And sadly, since I'm good and colorblind, I've never experienced this. Someone came to me today and was like, hey, check this out. And they showed me a picture on their phone, and they're like, it's a green flash. I'm like, I can't tell.
I did have somebody come up to me earlier and ask me that, like, no, it's Colorado and we're green. And I'm like, no, California has weed legal too, and we're still 16 years old.
A lot of people are asking. a lot of people are asking us about this like green sort of sun-looking thing. Like, ooh, is it weed? And I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah, as people from California, and actually my family's in Hawaii, so no, I was like, no, it's a green flash. It's what happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad
You
I
should
finally
see one.
know.
And I'm glad you love Passion Fruit Kicker, because we're very proud of that one as well. It's a nice beer.
Please tell me that's going to be on for a while. That's not going to go away.
It will go away for a bit, but it's going to be a seasonal release.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that beer. And again, I looked around yesterday, and I don't think I saw any beer that had passion fruit in it. Lots of different fruits. I had some watermelon beer. I even had some oyster beer, but not passion fruit.
That one came about. It was a large degree. We wanted to do a passion fruit wheat beer, and I was asked to do it, and they said, "Hey, we want to do a passion fruit beer," and I was just like, "Jesus Christ, like do I got to do a damn stinking fruit beer?" And because I say that a lot, and they basically I basically put down this sort of like, I will do it, but we have to use real fruit, and it has to be legit, and it has to taste great. So we started off with some passion fruit concentrate that we actually put into the beer, and it gives it a nice little tartness there, and it gives it a lot of that flavor when you taste it, but it lacked aroma. And we'd been working with an outfit in San Diego called Tea Gallery, and they make a lot of just specialty tea blends, and they made us or I think they already had a passion fruit black tea. So we ended up making a giant pot of tea and infusing that into the beer, and that gives it this amazing tropical pop and aroma.
That's where the nose comes from.
Yeah,
then.
and
Okay.
so that's it. It's pretty unique, I think.
Yeah, come by on a fruit and day for passion fruit kicker. The brewery smells great.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Oh, I would love
the
to.
entire place.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that I see a lot of beers that I can only get once. I can find it pretty consistently here in Colorado. So considering it's a California beer, that's great for me. Again, I grabbed a 6-pack when I came up this weekend. As soon as I stopped at Doug's store, first thing I bought was a 6 of Passion Fruit Kicker. And when I found out you guys were going to sit down with us, I was super excited because I never thought in a million years we'd be talking to you. So thank you guys so much for
We
joining
appreciate
us.
it.
There's a lot of California breweries here, as I'm sure you guys know, and you guys just do things differently enough, and I knew how much he appreciated that. I figured you were the one that we wanted to talk to. San Diego has got to be a fierce scene to be in craft brewing. There's just so much good shit coming out of it.
We were debating how many breweries there are in
Yeah.
San Diego today. It's like 160 or 180.
That is crazy.
It's insane.
I was telling her like 10, 12 years ago, I probably knew almost every brewer in town. And at that time though, there were probably 35 breweries or something. And there's just so many now. And I said I probably know 10% of the people in brewing right now. It's just it's really grown up. And there's a lot of good beer in San Diego, which is great because for drinkers especially, you could just go out and you can go to many different, any restaurant, you can find good beer there, which is great. And just like Denver, really, there's a lot of good beer out here, of course.
There is. And there's and I'm sure San Diego and a lot of places with a lot of mom and pop microbrews, there's some stuff that's like, it's still got some work to do.
Sure. I think I was noticing earlier today during the awards ceremony that a lot of breweries that are winning, I've never heard of them. And, there's 8,000 breweries in the country, 2,200 entered in here. And so it's not surprising, I suppose. But we've seen a thing at Green Flash where we'll have like good employees and they come in and we train them well and they learn the process and we turn them into good brewers. And I've seen the same thing up at Stone Brewing Company where a lot of good brewers who are now running their own thing actually used to work for Green Flash. And a lot of good brewers used to work at Stone. And I'm sure it's the same around the country that for a long time, I've been doing this for 24 years. And back in the day, some people knew what they were doing and some people made really terrible beer. But now there's such a dissemination of information and also training and all these breweries that have been training grounds for a lot of like up and coming brewers that all of a sudden like just the knowledge level in craft brewing is just exceptional. It's astronomical. It's great.
With that amount of competition that you've seen over the last decade, how have you had to adapt Green Flash? Because when you guys are the only guys on the block, you can screw up probably a couple times. Now there's probably not much room for error, correct?
Well, and there was no competition. And back in the day when we got going, sometimes you couldn't find good beer. So that gave us a distinct advantage because we've always made really good beer. And West Coast IPA came out and, it was sort of groundbreaking. I didn't work there at the time, but when I drank that beer the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, it just totally changed my life. And, it's like when I had Blind Pig IPA for the first time or Stone IPA for the first time, it was just like, okay, it's not a big, heavy, red, hoppy beer. This is like a lighter bodied beer. You can really drink a lot of it and it's balanced, even though it's super hoppy. So I don't think I answered the question, but, there you go.
I think it was more like, following trends. Do we had to make a hazy IPA? Yeah, absolutely. You
Okay.
know, did
And-
we want to? Not particularly, personally, but we made one, and actually it's
It's
pretty
damn good-
great.
pretty damn good,
actually.
yeah.
So there is that. But
We had a faction beer earlier today. What's it called?
yeah,
Remember what it's called?
yep.
Okay. Anyways, it's basically a
Roger's gonna be pissed.
anyways, doesn't matter. But it was very delicious. But it was described to me as a hazy IPA without the haze.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it was great.
Because it still had all those banging flavors and all that fruit from all those late hop additions, but it wasn't cloudy. And you kind of looked at it and you're like, oh, okay,
it's
yeah,
perfect.
all right. Probably a little longer shelf life, which I like.
And that was going to be my next question: is like, what things have you tasted? What kind of ideas are you going to walk away from this year with?
We come up with like, I don't want to say random, but kind of random ideas sometimes. Like we just did a saison that we fermented in the extra Jameson barrels with grapes grown in Eric's backyard, and it turned out phenomenal.
Turned out great.
Just as like kind of like, oh, we started just chatting about, I kind of want to do a rosé, I kind of want to do this, oh, we should do this, and then all of a sudden here's this, complete new idea that came out of it.
And then we find
So-
out from one of our brewers that
Yeah.
his family has a grape vineyard, and that we could get as many grapes as we want. So we might actually make a nice big batch of it.
Yeah.
Nice.
We actually just did a kettle sour too. That turned out super good with the pink guava.
Yeah.
That actually was really good.
That was a collaboration with one of our Tijuana neighbors.
Insurgente.
Insurgente Brewery in Tijuana, and they came up and we collaborated on a recipe, and we needed a little Latin flavor, so we put some guava in. We fermented it with the yeast, and it turned out pretty
it's super good.
amazing. And that was one of our. Then, like I was saying earlier, is that that turned out to be one of our small can releases. So we canned it off and released 125 cases of it, and that's the kind of stuff that we're going to start doing a little bit more of. We're going to try to be a little more limber and a little, try to act like the small guys here, because a lot of competition out there, absolutely. And we know we could do cool things, and we know we can make great beer, so why not do 125 case releases?
I think it's great. Send at least 25 out to Colorado so I can get my hands on it.
That's actually been discussed to do the smaller draft releases also for
Yeah,
them
it'll be
do
draft
that.
releases. So when we do the small can releases at the tasting room, we'll probably end up throwing some of that draft out here.
Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
We've talked to a lot of brewers over the weekend. I could easily say that you two are probably two of the most confident that I've ever had the pleasure of speaking with. And it's with good reason. And this is a little ass-kissing, but you guys make damn good beer. I'm assuming, judging by the titles I heard earlier, that you guys are given a lot of latitude. As sometimes you have to do something because that's what the market is doing. But otherwise, it's Green Flash is giving you free reign.
Yeah, I would say pretty much, yeah. We have a 5-barrel pilot system that we use frequently, at this point. So we're always trying to come up with new ideas and new recipes, or let's do this, or let's do this. And it's a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah.
We enjoy it. It's nice to be brewers, actually. It's really what it comes down to.
It really is. It's pretty fun. I used to be an accountant, and that was no fun. So, when I have to spend the day in the office, and a couple hours of it is just poring over the spreadsheet and just kind of thinking about new beers that I would like to brew and just making recipes up, that's kind of a treat. Not everybody gets to do that.
I've told him it's the end game for us. It has to be, right? I mean, we're going to talk to brewers long enough that we're finally going to be like, oh, we need to actually start doing this. And, hopefully we have the benefit of, people that have been doing it for a long time.
Come do a collaboration. Come hang out.
That's, we're going to have to exchange information afterward, because
Absolutely.
like you pointed out, we had no idea who we were actually going to be talking to today. So we didn't get, any kind of information in advance. This is the first cold interview we've done all day. And I'll point out, I think it's going really well. And again, I appreciate it. Back to what you were talking about, though, with training people up and then them going off to do their own thing. That's such a, there's a good side to that, because, that's how the scene grows. And there's a downside to that, because you just lost a great employee.
Right.
It's hard, yeah.
Is it
It's
a constant struggle?
it's always the best one, too. It's like, oh, man, that guy could quit. It's fine. But no, not you.
But on the other hand, like at this point, we've gotten a lot of resumes and applications from other smaller breweries in San Diego, so that want to come up to larger scales, or production
We
facilities.
have seen that a lot lately, yeah.
Which is kind of fun too, because then they're coming in from, again, a smaller facility, and they bring their own kind of set of knowledge to everything too. So everybody kind of gets to learn and train each other, which has been rad.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we have a pretty collaborative spirit there. And certainly we don't want people just sort of doing, like, haha, I'm just going to make whatever, haha, no. But, like Ashley and I are always, we want our people to come to, hey, I think we can do this better. Like, oh yeah, or maybe we can get more aroma out of those hops. And so, we're constantly changing the way that we do things. And there's no static like, hey, we do this and we've always done it this way and we're never going to change and whatever. It's kind of like, we've changed the way we dry hop in the last couple of years, probably 3 or 4 times, just
Yeah.
because we think, well, maybe we can, Alpine and Green Flash, Alpine Brewing, Alpine Beer Company and Green Flash are the same company. And those guys are talented brewers. And they brought a lot of recipes in that we're brewing at our big brewery right now, but we had to learn how to brew them. And when we did that, of course, we learned from some true experts how to do things a little bit differently. And we'd be fools if we didn't actually incorporate those methods into what we do at Green Flash, because some of them are amazing. So it's just the way we do things. We want to change, we want to get better.
It is pretty cool to be a brewer, isn't it?
It's all right.
Yeah.
Did I mention I used to be an accountant? Oh,
you did mention that. What's next? I know you guys are gonna get home and get some downtime and get back to work making beer. What's the next event for Green Flash?
Treasure Chest.
Treasure Chest. What's that?
Yes.
Yeah, it's our breast cancer awareness charity event at the brewery on September 30th.
Oh, that's pretty
right
soon
around
here.
the corner.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's
Yeah.
next Sunday,
Next Sunday.
and we partner with the Komen Foundation in San Diego. The money gets donated to them, and we make a lot of special beers for that event, and we're going to do it inside of the brewery. And
I
people
think the
get
number
to
was 19.
19 beers that are
Different?
specifically for that event.
A lot of them are like beers that we might have already, and we're like, hey, I think this would be really cool with some ginger
Yeah.
and blackberry. Let's try that out. So, some things that you will be able to get at Treasure Chest and probably maybe never see again, or some of them that, if we blow the keg in a half hour, we might
Yeah.
want to think about that.
With awesome food pairings.
With food pairings, yeah. So, really cool event.
Really cool
And
event.
a dunk tank.
A dunk tank and a great cause.
Yeah, just saying.
And a great
another
cause, exactly.
great pairing. Guys,
Yeah.
you guys are just knocking it out of the park.
It's good
Yeah.
stuff.
This is normally the part where I would ask, like, well, how do people find you online? But you're Green Flash, so people, our listeners,
So I'm pretty sure it's greenflashbrew.com. Yeah.
already,
Feeling pretty good about that.
They already
yeah.
know how to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be respectful of your time. You asked for 20. I think we've already gone 25. We'll get you guys.
Again, we didn't ask for anything. We don't know.
Because that only leaves you 30 more minutes on the floor, right? And then you're done, correct?
Can we just stay here for the next
I was
30
gonna
minutes?
say.
actually?
You are more
You
than
know-
welcome
Can I
to.
just
More than welcome
do a
to.
lotus
As much as
pose
I'd like
and,
to go back to the Jameson tent right now.
Actually, I'm going to have another golden god, almost certainly.
That's true.
If there's
It's
any
not a bad
golden
idea.
god left, that might be the one that would draw me back upstairs.
There you go.
Oh yeah, it is. And there's
Yeah.
also passion fruit kicker, so maybe we should just go up and start drinking again.
That's don't twist my arm. Yeah.
What do you say, man? What do you say we go have a beer before we leave?
As long as we can get packed up and the equipment is safe, I am down with that.
That's a very good point. Thanks again to you both. We
Thank
we
you.
really appreciate it.
Yeah,
very
it was
welcome.
awesome. Thank you guys so
Good
much.
times.
And we'll get this cut up and send it to you too.
Okay.
Awesome.
Even though you guys weren't aware that you were doing it, that's fine. We'll get it to somebody.
It's like
I
8:45. We get a
actually-
group text. We're like getting ready for the awards. Like I'm like, what?
It's fine.
Like what did you just say? I'm like love to.
I know.
Which we did say love to.
I saw the Dave. We hit him like right when he was on his way out, and
Yeah. Then we start. Then they send us the email with all the information. We're like, oh, all right.
I didn't get to use my favorite joke. Damn
You want to tell it? We can cut it in.
I was gonna say the one
No,
favorite
no, it's
joke. You have
fine.
one favorite joke?
it. I know. It's stupid. No, I often will say, people will say, well, here's the funny story. I used to work for a brew pub in Pacific Beach, and which is a community in San Diego, and I was the sole brewer there. So part of my deal was that whenever we would have new employees, a lot of overturn in brew pubs. So whenever we'd have new employees, I'd bring them in, I'd let them help me shovel out the mash tun, and then we would do a little guided tasting. So at one point, this gal says, so should I call you Brewmaster? And I told her, I said, you can call me Master. And it kind of stuck. So all of a sudden, like the girls, and there's a lot of girls at this place, and they're all calling me Master. And one day, my wife comes for lunch, and one of them comes up and is like, hi, Master. And my wife just gives me the stink eye, and I'm like, oh, goodness. So,
Being on I Dream of Jeannie.
yeah, I guess so. Major Nelson here.
That's right.
Yeah, so pretty dang funny. And if I was to say one thing in our benefit is that Green Flash is going to start canning their beers a lot next year, and we're going to be releasing West Coast IPA in cans. We're going to do Duet from Alpine in cans. All of our new lineup is going to go into cans. All of our core beers. So we're super excited about just like the possibilities with doing and afraid actually because canning. But you know, there's a lot of new beers coming out at Green Flash, and most of them are going to end up in cans, and hopefully you'll see them all here in Colorado.
Well, yeah, keep sending the passion fruit kicker out here, man. Bottle or can, I don't care. I buy it both ways because I love it. It's one of my favorite beers.
Awesome.
In fact, I wrote about it on Untapped.
Yeah.
On Untapped. So yeah, one of the hundreds of reviews I'm sure you have.
Yes,
by me, so
I've not read them all.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure you don't have time to. But
We have poured
yeah.
more of that beer today, man.
We did. It was popular. Golden God, Kicker, Tropical DNA.
A lot of tropical.
Yeah,
Foxy-
I
Foxy
can't be
Jock.
the only one that thinks
No,
Kicker
I mean,
is
like,
the best thing ever. Yeah, it's
I was
so
upstairs at the
good.
last session. I think I changed literally 6 out of the 8 kegs.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm a fruity beer guy. I know you don't like fruity beer, but
No, I love Passion
No,
Fruit
we
Kicker.
no we
okay,
yeah.
good,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, because
We're stoked if we get the
Yeah.
option to do it and then like have a time to make it good.
Yeah.
Then it's no problem. You know?
Yeah, I just want to set the standard. You know, like it has to be like something I can stand behind.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, oh hey, I just got a gluggity glug bottle of extract and poured it into
Right.
a fermenter, and this, you know, it's cheating and it's fake, and you can tell it's fake. So why do it?
Well, no, and I won't mention names, but there's a fruity beer I had recently that won an award today, and I called it on air. Worst things I've ever had, and I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" When I saw the list, I was like, "That beer?" It's like,
Yeah,
no.
well, we thought that about a certain brewery earlier too. So
Okay, I was like, no, that's not. That's
like,
not
I'm
a
just
good,
confused.
That's not a good
It's,
beer.
you know, GABF is kind of a weird thing because there have been beers that I thought should win and never won anything, and there are beers there that I just think are garbage that win, and I'm just like, I don't know.
Golden God,
Not.
We were so
That was our-
confident.
that
we were
was
like,
our-
that's our beer.
that
This
was
is
the
the one
biggest
this
one.
year.
We're like,
scrolled
all
through
right.
the list twice today of winners, and we watched it live, and I was still like, okay, maybe my palate just sucks because that was the best thing I fucking
yeah,
tasted
we
last
thought
night.
Golden God was.
The best thing I
I
tasted.
thought you might not have entered it, like there wasn't.
No, we did.
We did, yeah.
we
Which,
did.
which category did you guys
We entered it at CBC too, and we got good comments.
Yeah, we did.
And we think this version was better. So
It
who
was
knows what happened?
Barrel aged strong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it was. Yeah.
And it's 9.5%. It's
Oh, it's
How many other
It's,
beers
you
were
know,
in that
it's-
category?
More than I thought for some reason. 110, 120.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
wow,
like enough
okay.
to where I was like, oh, that's actually more than I would have expected in that in particular category. So,
Well, I'll tell you, it's the best thing I had yesterday, and I probably.
so
did
I'm sure the
100
winners
100 plus
deserved it.
beers maybe.
awesome. Thank you.
And yeah, oh my God, just that flavor. I don't know how to describe it, but it's it was and so unique.
Really.
Yeah.
And
We
unique can be
wanted to
bad,
do a beer
but-
for the Jameson thing that wasn't like a imperial stout,
Mm-hmm.
because we knew that there was going to be a lot of imperial stouts out there, and we wanted to stand out. We did have another one from Heavy Seas though that was a
Oh, that
IPA
IPA,
that they aged in the
awesome.
barrels, and then they
Awesome.
dry hopped it after they pulled it out of the barrels. That was fantastic. Also,
Fantastic.
I can't recall what it was
After
called,
the
but
Yeah.
yeah, that was really good.
They're from Maryland. They were actually next to us in the Jameson category, and there was, yeah, that beer was fucking great.
It's a great idea. Why wouldn't you do that? Yeah. We've done that with sour beers. We had some barrel-aged sour beers that we dry hopped after they were in the after in the
What
barrels.
does that do to the sour then? Does it?
It's kind of a peculiar. I think it's a peculiar effect. I mean, like sour and hops don't always go together. So if they're the right hops and they sort of accentuate some of the flavors, I think it can work. But
Okay.
it can also just taste like dirt. You know,
The amount
Whoopsie.
of hops and the type of hops when you do that with, like we did for the treasure chest, we did a sour plum IPA. Same thing, to where we're looking at the dry hop, like you're really trying to,
Yeah.
you know, make sure we didn't.
Maybe we shouldn't use 2 pounds per barrel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like normal.
So.
Well, I'm glad you guys had a good GABF.
It's fun.
I,
It was a good
again,
one.
If I was giving out the awards, hands down.
Well, we'll let you. We'll let you judge next year.
I don't think they'll let me on media. So.
We can get you in the classes now. Might be ready by the time. Maybe.
No.
I'm not
Okay, no,
qualified,
we're
yeah.
A friend of
None
mine.
of that is right.
She's like, yeah,
None of
nope.
A friend of mine every year tells me, he's like, dude, you should judge. He's like, I'll sponsor you. You'll
Yeah,
you'll
yeah,
probably
he's
get in
sponsored.
first year. And he's like, you got 24 years of experience. Like, you should be judging. And I see him here, And he just looks like the Walking Dead. He just looks so beat, and his liver's the size of a football, and you're just like, dude.
Like they had
this
8,800
seems
entries or
unpleasant.
something.
But he's probably right. I probably should do it.
Yes, he should do it.
I mean, wouldn't hurt to
You know.
try it once, right?
Yeah, why not?
I say anything once.
Yeah.
And then if you don't like it, then don't ever do
Yeah,
it again.
no. I imagine I'd get addicted, and then I'd do it for the rest of my life, which
yeah.
would probably be okay.
Not bad.
All right, back to Jameson.
Jameson.
Yeah, we got a pack, guys. So you're fine. You're good.
Well, thank you. This was actually fun. I'm glad we somehow got involved in, however we got involved in this. Whether you emailed us, whether we emailed you. Great.
Give me a call. Get in town. Well, actually, if we're doing something, you can come hang out with us, whatever.
My other podcast,
Oh, that's cool.
co-host lives in San Diego.
I was asking most of them last night, and then we got on the podcast called Fox, so I wasn't able to check this one.
Bed-Faced.
Bed-Faced?
Yeah, about video games.
Okay.
And she's my co-host.
Oh, really?
I met her here, but she moved out to San Diego, and then we do it remote.
No, we were like, nope, the nice lady from the podcast is going to meet you at your booth at 8:45 and take you down. We're like, perfect. That's all we need to know. It's great. And that's what happened. So there you go.
Take you up on that.
Please do. Yeah.
You see
Yeah.
some drunk dude named Eric show up at your.
Well, give me a call first.
Of course.
just throw a text. Yeah, it'll be, yeah.
Of course, man. Yeah, of course I would. Actually, it was
Awesome.
a pleasure, man.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You guys travel safe.
Thank you.
Yeah, please do.
Take care.
This was fun.
Nikki, thanks a lot.
We just go back
How do I
up.
find
Yep.
your podcast?
iTunes or
iTunes?
Take a. What are they called? A decal?
I typically don't listen to myself because then I'm like, oh, why did I say that? But
We will. Doug will be the one reaching out to you. We will. We'll cut it up and give it
Oh,
to you guys.
that's a fun fact. I did not know that. I actually did.
We're going to release it as a solo Green Flash episode, and we'll give it to you guys. You do whatever you want with it.
Awesome. Thank
Spread
you.
the signal. Yeah,
All
of course.
Website, social stuff, it's all under
Great.
the same. There's no other tapping.
What's social media? You see these gray sideburns?
Eric's really big on Instagram.
Come on. I know what Facebook is, sort of. Not cool, apparently, with the younger folks these days.
No, yeah, they're all. It's Instagram and Snapchat and what's the other one? It was the.
My mother-in-law tweets, so I know that's not cool.
Yeah, and Twitter's kind of going.
Did I
going away too?
did I show you the? Did you hear that they released a picture of Donald Trump, the actual presidential portrait today? Did you see it?
No. You should look at it. Because you guys would probably appreciate it.
Yeah, not with this crew.
I have a feeling you guys are probably.
No, this.
I feel like they really captured him though.
They really did.
This guy actually did a mural at Green Flash. He's like a good friend.
Yeah,
of
he
mine.
did.
And so he just like every once in a while, he did one of Joe Arpaio, the sheriff in Phoenix. He was wearing like a sombrero and he had like a serape on. It's called Welcome to the Fiesta, and he just looks like he's like a deer in the headlights. It's pretty famous.
That's awesome.
But anyway, shall we go?
Yeah, because they want to do a
should.
Jameson after picture, something.
Enjoy
something
the
else.
end
I
of
don't know.
your fest, guys.
We will.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
again,
cheers,
seriously.
guys. Thanks a lot for having us.
Take care. Cheers.
Are we coming with you, Nikki, or we just go to the end?
Oh, yeah, you can go. Yeah. To the right.
You guys know where you're going? Should we close?
Yeah.
Do we need to do that? I know. It's 9:35. We'll make this quick. Baby, you should sit down and throw on some cans. No? You were integral to this process today. I'm actually really looking forward to hear about the conversations you had with these people while they were waiting to sit down and talk with us. I could tell, like, they liked you. Probably more than they liked Eric and I. Oh. Hey, brother.
Oh, hey, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you for. I didn't do anything today.
Dude, this went by so fast, and it was so much fun.
It was, and I'm really glad that we went off the cuff. I think everybody had a lot of good stories to tell. I think everybody's stories were different. We got to talk to a lot of interesting personalities. I never thought in a million years when we started a beer podcast less than a year ago that Green Flash would be sitting across the table from us. So that I look at that as a huge victory.
Yep, And I don't know that I have much to add to that, except for I couldn't have done it without you, and I know you know how important this day was to me. And God damn, this is fun.
I couldn't have done it without you either, man. And I think we both did equal amount of talking today. I got a couple messages from people that said we sounded great. That's what I always like to hear. If the live stream sounds great, if our voices sound great, if our questions are good, then it's this was a day of work, but God, I would do this for a living. This was a day of fun. So
it was. I hope once we get everything packaged up and sliced and diced and can show Great American Beer Festival what we did this year, that hopefully they'll invite us back next year. But
I've got an idea how we're going to release these, but I'll talk to you about that off air.
Okay. Absolutely. Well, thanks again to all of our guests today. Thanks to everyone that tuned in. We're actually going to try and get wrapped up so we can maybe go drink one more beer before we have to leave for tonight. And yeah, that's I'm fried. We're done.
Yeah. Thank you guys, everyone who listened live. Thank you, everyone who supports the podcast on Facebook and on Twitter. Thank you to Dr. Scott Forney, my favorite person in the entire world today. Really appreciate the feedback. And thank you to Carl. Carl Lundeen for sending me some feedback as well today and really kind of hyping me up for the day. I'll see you online, Carl. And Scott, I'll talk to you in the future. And I've done such a good job today not saying your nickname that I'm just going to cut it off here.
Success. We love you all.
Love you all. Thanks for tuning in.